Welcome back, hopefully. Maybe this is your first time, but this is episode 34 of the good old Rogue Hunters podcast. Ye old Rogue Hunters podcast. I can't believe we're on episode 34, the first 34th episode that we're ever going to have.
The first ever episode 34.
I feel like this is just going to be like a common intro that we have for like every single one. This is the first ever 34th episode of Ye Old Rogue Hunter podcast. I am joined here today with Waver.
Oh, that me.
And just Waver. Brian had a family emergency, so prayers to him. Leave him down in the comments below, please. Brian needs it. But we've got some interesting topics this week. Oh, as for Brian, if you guys want to check up on him, you can check up on his Twitter or Discord. Waves and I have been checking in with him every day to make sure everything's been a-okay, but I don't want to just sweep that under the rug because it seems like it's a situation.
Yeah, I'm sure he would much appreciate the good what do you say, the good wills or whatever
the good
on Twitter
prayers,
the good prayers,
whatever you guys do, just go. You don't even have to say prayer, like just ask him how he's doing and everything. Just check up on him.
I'm sure he would appreciate the sentiment.
That's what I was trying to say. There you go. Vocabulary. A vocabulary. We got an interesting episode this week. It probably won't be as long since it's just the Waver and I, but we'll see what we stumble into. We're going to be talking about Shawn Layden, the Activision Blizzard update, and then we have a viewer question that we're going to discuss. And as always, we're going to be talking about what games we've been playing. So any articles or anything are going to be linked down in the description below, along with all of our socials, so Twitter's, Twitch, YouTube. You can follow along on our PSN profiles, which are also linked down in the description below. Basically everything's linked down in the description below, so go follow any of it if you got some free time. We greatly appreciate it. But I'm going to keep saying it until the end of the time. With those shameless plugs out of the way, let's talk about what games we've been playing this week. Waves, you can go first.
Why do I always have to go first? No, I'm kidding.
Well, we're doing backwards alphabetical order this week, so.
Oh man, so I'm always gonna be first.
Yeah. No, just this week.
Just this week, and then somehow next week we're gonna do it also.
Well, maybe.
Then it's gonna be me, then you, then Brian.
Yeah, but sometimes we gotta bite the bullet, just like I'm the, perpetual host of the Ye Old Rogue Hunters podcast now. I'm gonna get that text and put it up on the podcasting. Instead of called the Rogue Hunters podcast, I'm gonna get like that old, like what a courier text or whatever it is. Ye Old Rogue Hunters podcast.
I was gonna say get the Red Dead Redemption font.
Oh, I have it downloaded on my computer. I'll do it this week. Maybe,
Do you know the name of that font, by the way?
It's called, I don't remember the name, but I know the GTA one is called Price Down. I forget what the Red Dead one is, but I know I have it.
It's Chinese Rocks.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did they name it that before or after the game came out?
I think it was before the game came out.
That's a little ridiculous. Well, It may be a new trend here on the Rogue Hunters podcast to have it called Ye Old Rogue Hunters podcast, because we're getting there.
Yeah, we're almost halfway.
To what?
We're closer to 50 than we are to 0 now.
That is true. That's math right there. That's what I call math. So what have you been playing, Waves?
Honestly, I haven't been playing much. I've been working on other stuff, which I've shown you in our group DM.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Other than that, I've been playing... Actually, I kind of been playing a couple of stuff. I started Maze Pedestal of Trials, but I just didn't finish it. I'll have to go back to it eventually. Then I started Mass Effect, which I've never played Mass Effect, and I saw it on sale, so I wanted to give it a try. I'm liking it so far. Uh, the models look kind of jank with the new lighting, so which can be said about like most things. Like the Assassin's Creed 3 one. Have you seen the Assassin's Creed 3 with the new lighting?
I've seen it with
the
I've
remastered.
I've seen some of it, and like I think, well, they did it with like AC2 as well, which I never understood because I think they like updated the lighting, but they ended up fucking up like so many other things in the meantime.
They like updated the lighting, but the models were made in mind with like the current like lighting, right? So like they didn't do anything to update the models at all, so it just looks wrong. You can basically see the seams on their face.
Yeah, you know what it almost reminds me of? It almost reminds me of when you pull a photo into Photoshop and then you learn about the tool called Sharpen, and you literally just crank that to 1,000%.
Yeah, that's exactly how it looks like. No, it's now that I think about it.
Like I don't get why. This is the thing I don't understand about those remasters, right? Like they're cool and everything, but does anybody test them before they put them out? Like I feel like anybody would have played like AC3 and been like, there's something just off with this. Like
I feel like the remasters are like more broken than like the original versions, because like not even talking about the aesthetic side of it, because obviously like go look at not current Judgment, PS4 Judgment to PS5 Judgment. You'll see the difference between lighting and stuff, but like just on a pure mechanical level, I guess, go look at I've just been playing a lot of Yakuza, so I've just been watching a bunch of videos of them, but I watched this video comparing the Yakuza Remastered Collection to the originals, and it's just like not broken essentially, but it's not working the same. So like now things that are that were like easier in the original game is harder in the remasters, because now it's at 60 FPS, so now things are going faster. And then so then for some reason the dead zone for like the stick or something, you have to basically have the left stick completely up, and like there has to be no movement to the left or right to completely go left, or else you'll just start going in circles essentially. I think that was in Yakuza 3.
Yeah,
and then
that's really strange.
It's just like weird strange stuff like that. It's just like, how do you, these are supposed to be like almost the definitive versions of these games, and you guys are like fucking them up. like how?
Yeah, I think that like speaks volumes to like the whole like just remastering in general, and like how it's almost like a lazy thing, because I never thought about the frame rate side of it, because I don't know the program exactly, but there's a program that people that someone I remember hearing about it a few months back, and people were able to you basically put in like a whatever frame rate. Typically like TV or whatever runs at like 24 frames. So like people would put like, or like movies, right? They would put like a movie in at 24 frames or like a video in at 30 frames. And then what this program did was then it rendered it up to 60 frames. But if you think about it, like logically, without this program, the only way to get from, let's just keep easy math here, the only way to get from 30 frames to 60 frames is you literally have to double the speed to get those frames per second, but because you can't just create those out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So like what this program did was it actually like interpolated the in-between frames so that it wasn't sped up, so that it was in the same speed. And then basically I'm assuming the way it interpolated was it would look at the colors from a pixel at 1 second to a pixel at 2 seconds, and then it would interpolate the way that those colors were kind of moving to then make like an actual like 60 frame video.
Yeah.
But like, I never thought about that when they like remaster games. I mean, I don't know if it's different because of like the engines they're developed in, but like, I think one of the biggest things with like remasters between like the 3 and the 4 is that the 3 was like the start of the HD, and you're talking about games that were probably optimized. I mean, a lot of games that were out on the 3, especially like AC3, I'm pretty sure came out at like 720p. So,
yeah, at a struggling like 30 FPS also.
Yeah, and so then to remaster that up to the PS4 at 1080p with like probably rescaling at 4K 60 frames. I don't know if it even does 60 frames. Like, I just don't think it's an easy like flick of a switch and we move from here to there, because those games, like if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, I know a lot of things are also, the frame rate especially is also attached to a lot of physics stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like the one I can think off the top of my head was because is, oh my god, what's it called? Some weeb game that I bought on the PC.
Mm-hmm.
If you play it on the PC, you have the option to play at 144 FPS.
Okay.
But the game was not made with that in mind, so literally every cutscene, every animation is running at like 3 times speed. So it's just super fast.
That's
so
crazy.
So like stuff like that is like tied to the frame rate. I'm guessing the stuff with Yakuza was tied to the frame rate. The thing also that I found out recently is Yakuza Kawami.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to, when you get grabbed, I forget which button you have to mash, but I think you have to mash X a bunch to get out of the grab, and it's almost like impossible to get out of it, because that game was originally made for the PS3, and when they brought it over to the PS4, it had the same problem with the 60 FPS thing,
Mm-hmm.
but this time you would basically have to mash the button like 2 times faster to get out of the grab.
Oh, because it was made at 30 frames, but now it's at 60 frames.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy to me. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
I'm just like, why is this an issue particularly? You know, I'm guessing because like the PS3 was weird. I'm just talking specifically with Yakuza. I'm guessing it's because the PS3 was weird and those games were only on PS3 for like the longest time. There's some other weird stuff, like the PC versions of Yakuza 4 and 5 are just completely missing an entire minigame.
Is there any reason why?
No, there's like no reason why. Like there's the pachinko machines, which on the PS4, the Xbox versions, the PS3 versions, you can play with no issue. On PC, it's just not there at all.
That's so strange.
And then it seems the best way to play that game is the remastered collection is the Xbox version. But the problem with the Xbox version is that I think it's when you're moving while you're fighting. So like there's kind of like a lock-on system.
Mm-hmm.
When you're locked on, you move 2 times faster than you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, when you do a dodge, you also like, normally you don't go behind the enemy, right? But with the Xbox version, you go full 360 around the enemy, so then you end up getting hit by them anyways.
What?
Yeah, it's like stupid weird.
That's like the strangest. That's so strange. I mean, it mainly makes me think about these like remasters and everything. Just like it just the same question I ask over and over again. Like, are these games even like tested? Like,
Yeah.
like, do they even test these games, or do they just assume like, hey, we put it out on this console, no problems. Like, we're gonna just put it out on this. Like, to me, no matter what you're releasing, whether it's a remaster, whatever, even if you're just straight up porting the game, right? Regardless of what it is, like, you should still be going through the same QA/QC process. And I mean, like, clearly they did, because you're saying like Yakuza left out mini games. Maybe the mini games had issues, like stability issues or something, or like maybe like you went to play it and it like literally crashed.
But
Like
like,
I don't know. There could be like
only
a
on the
million things.
PC version, you know?
Yeah, I mean that
Like,
is
that's
strange.
so weird.
Yeah, that's super strange. But yeah, I don't know. If you want me to be honest, I'm kind of getting tired of the remasters. I know like a few months ago I was saying, you know, I really enjoy them because it's giving people an opportunity. It's giving people an opportunity who own consoles to be able to play games that they couldn't previously have played, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back, when you're looking at it from like other console standpoints and everything, like, do people really want to play those games? Like, honestly, like, do people actually want, like, I think the only people that actually want to play those games are really like diehard fans. They're the only ones that are like, okay, yeah, I really want to play. Like, okay, like the Mass Effect, what is it called? The Legendary Edition? What's the exact name?
Yeah.
Mass Effect
That's
Legendary
the Mass
Edition,
Effect, the Legendary Edition, yeah.
which came with it's Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 remastered, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, if you actually wanted to play those games, like, you can play them on a PS3, and like you can even play Mass Effect 1 on a PS3. Like, I have the physical version, of like the trilogy, and you can play them all. But like, I don't know. I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's good to have the content available to people, but at the same time, I think that remasters are, they're definitely getting out of hand, and I don't know if like it benefits anybody, especially when it's remasters of like PS3 games. Or even like going into like, I think the one that made me laugh the most, which I know is like an anomaly, is like when Life is Strange got a remaster for the PS4, even though it came out on the PS4. But like it came out on the PS3 and PS4, like, so it was obviously developed on the PS3 and it was just made for the PS4. So they remastered it to, I'm assuming, optimize it on the PS4. But that's just like, why didn't you do that when you originally made the game? Like, it's almost like that was like laziness, and it just goes to show that like when it's released between both of them, I get it, like they have a window and a budget and everything, and like they can't, you know, go overboard. But I don't know, man. The remaster thing is definitely like, it's definitely starting to irritate me.
I feel like the remaster, the remaster and the in remakes, or just in general, kind of, I'm like kind of tired of them.
Yeah,
I understand why the Yakuza games got remastered, because the Yakuza games just got big out of nowhere on the PS4.
Yeah.
Like, people knew, not people, but if you knew about games, you knew about Yakuza, but it was more likely that you never played them on the PS3. Especially with how hard it was to get 3 and 4 just in general here in the West. So I understand why those got a remastered collection on the PS4. The ones I don't really get are like all the Assassin's Creeds, all the what was that other one?
I don't, fuck. I know there was like BioShock had it.
Yeah, BioShock had. I don't see the point of those.
Yeah, Borderlands got it. There was a few. There was a few.
Borderlands 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few, and pre-sequel. Like there was a few. There was a few franchises that got like the remaster. The remaster pedigree. I guess I don't know what you want to call it, but like, this is how I feel about it. I think I've said this for a while. Like, I don't like the idea of like a remaster. But I don't mind the idea of a port. Like, if you wanted to take AC2 and port it to the PS4, but not do like anything visually to it, like literally port it and bring it over, fine with me. They did that with the Grand Theft Auto games, and I think it was cool because you still got to experience the game. Nothing was changed, and the way you're playing it on your PS4 is the same way that you would have been playing it on your PS2, except maybe they changed the resolution.
See, but the weird thing about that is, like, technically speaking, that is what the Yakuza remasters are.
I mean, technically, but you're talking between. I think what I'm trying to get at is the difference is with like the difference between the GTA and like the Yakuzas is that GTA, you're talking about games that were released on the PS2 in non-HD form, and then you're bringing them to a console that has a better resolution. Where like I don't like the remasters or even like the ports from like PS3 to PS4 because I just like that game was already developed in like an HD engine, and I just feel like if you want to experience, like, you should go back and experience it on the PS3. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's, again, double-edged sword when it comes down to it. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a difference between porting from SD to HD and then porting from HD to HD. And especially with, like, we've talked about it in the past, but I feel like development on the PS3 in general was, like, a pain in the ass. So, like, to port it from the 3 to the 4, I don't even know, like, how easy that is to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is what happened to the Yakuza games. I'm guessing that engine just wasn't like as versatile as the Dragon engine that the newer Yakuzas uses, because that engine is just on the Dragon engine that has been used for the PS4, PS5, Xbox One series, and the Series XS. I don't know how to say that one.
Yeah, whatever. The new Xbox.
The PC. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm
like,
what's up?
I was just gonna say, I think like the remasters from 3 to 4, from like the PS3 to PS4, or even like PS3. We really haven't seen any from PS3 to PS5. I think are just like, I don't want to say they're not needed, but like I feel like if game companies want to like remaster, obviously if they're selling the games, they're gonna keep remastering them, but I'm fine, and I get behind like actual remakes, like you just mentioned, like the Yakuza games on their new, what's it called, the Dragon engine.
Yeah,
like the new Yakuza games they all run fine. Like if they were to build Yakuza 3 from the ground up on that new engine, like I'm more okay with that than trying to move it, because like I feel like when you try to move it, you cause more issues. Even though it's less work, you cause more issues, and then like more things can happen.
They kind of did that with the second Yakuza game.
Is it Kawami 2?
Oh, yeah, Kawami 2. It's a remake of the second game. So in the Dragon engine. Same with Kawami 1 with the older Yakuza engine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like that's totally fine, but just the straight up like move from like literally, I mean, I know this isn't what they're doing, but they're like Control C, Control V. Like that's almost what it's like feels like sometimes with these remakes. And then there's issues that arise, and it's like, what? Like, do you remember when AC2 came out and they had the issue with the lighting, and then that guy's face in the one? And then, like, it was literally, like, whatever, 30 minutes into the game. It was, like, the first fight in the game, and people were coming across this whack-ass face. And it's like, did Ubisoft even play the game before they put it out? Like, and granted, like, it may not have happened, but, like, you should have dozens of people testing this game before you put it out to find any sort of anomalies like that.
I mean, I would be fine with just the normal remasters. I feel... Personally, I prefer those over the remakes, just because I feel like those preserve more of the original game than a remake will.
Yeah.
So, like, now with Dead Space, they're remaking it, right? Which is super cool. Like, I'm totally gonna buy it just because I love Dead Space. But, it's like, can you really call it a remake? Because now they're putting in scenes that they took out from the original game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then with the remasters, I like prefer those more in a way. I understand like Kiwami 1 and 2 being a remade and a new engine, just because like those games visually did not age well, and the mechanically also haven't aged well. 3, 4, and 5 essentially play like the newer games, while also apparently they were a pain in the ass to port, but they also don't look bad like visually. Like 3 kind of looks rough, but like it's not like the worst game on PSN, you know? Like it still looks good.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather have that experience than a Kawami 3 experience where that is not necessarily what Yakuza 3 was on the original PS3. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
whether we like you and me for sure will probably just play it on the PS3. I'm probably gonna play Yakuza 3 on the PS4 solely because it doesn't have all the content that got it has all the content that got cut from the original 3 Western release. So I want to be able to play the most of that game that I can. While the Yakuza 3 in the West just had like a bunch of mini games and side stories taken out of it. The Yakuza 3 remaster has everything. So that one for us is the best way to play it in the West, technically, right?
Yep.
Because it has everything that the original Yakuza 3 had. I think except for one mini game that they also took out in Japan because it just doesn't make sense to have it now because it was like questions of current events at the time. So
nice.
But I'd much rather prefer those because that gives you a true real experience of how it was on the PS3. But I would like it more if they actually fixed it and QA'd it, because it just seems almost like every remaster they don't do that.
Yeah, it's almost like they say it wasn't broken before, so we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, which is why I'm like eating away at myself between playing what games I want to play on the PS4 to PS5, because you know, you and I think Brian is the same, and a lot of people have the same thought, at least that listen to us, that you want to play the authentic experience of the game like when it came out, and you don't want to play like a different version, even if it's just, you know, changing the resolution or the frame rate. Like, you would rather play the authentic, like, this is what the Yakuza 3 came out on the PS3, like, that's what I want to play almost. And like, that's my issue with the 4 and the 5 right now, because there's so many games that have come out on the 4 that are being like, I don't want to say remade, but they're being put out on the 5 with like updates. And like, one that I'm thinking about off the top of my head is like Jedi Fallen Order, which came out on the PS4. I still haven't played it, and I know you've played the 4 and the 5, and like, yeah, the 5 is probably going to be visually better looking, but you ran into so many bugs on the PS5 version that it almost makes me want to like step back and be like, I don't like, I'm gonna hit the brake on that. I mean, I'm probably going to do it on both because I said I would do every Star Wars game, but
I mean, like, personally for me, I ran into hella bugs on both versions.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was just my copy of the game, because on the PS4, the loading speed wasn't fast enough, so I would fall through the world. There was one time I forget which world I loaded into. I think it was the Night Sisters world, Dathomir.
Yep.
I loaded into that world literally just straight from the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And that what was I saying? Oh yeah. So literally right when I got out of the ship, the level didn't load at all. So then I ended up falling straight through the world right to the bottom of Dathomir.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all like layered on top of each other.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell is going on with this game? On the PS5, I just had more video evidence of it this time around, just because I actually recorded it through the PS5 this time, where like the PS4 was kind of annoying to like get videos of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With the PS5 is like super quick and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like the PS5, I had a better experience overall, just because the game loaded way faster than it normally would, so I wasn't falling through the world, and I wasn't having to be. I don't know if this happened to you when you played it on the PS4, but it like stopped me every once in a while to make sure the world in front of me was being loaded.
I mean, I haven't played it, but like that happened to me on like RE8.
Oh yeah, I forgot you haven't played it yet on PS4.
Remember, like, I was running through the castle in RE8 and it stopped me, and you're like, "There's load screens."
No, yeah.
Like, yeah, sadly, there kind of are.
Yeah, so
I don't know. It's like it's definitely a touchy subject.
I feel
Because
like
I'm not a big fan of like straight up remasters, but like I don't mind a port. Like I think I would take a port over a remart. Like this would be my list of like how I would take old games. Like number one would be port. Like literally just port it. Whatever it is, port it over. Don't change anything, just port that bitch. Number two would be like a remake because I think it is interesting to remake a game or to let a company remake a game and almost kind of get their imagining on the game in a way, which I know takes away from what the game was, but like it could improve it. But then you have companies like Blue Point that will remake it and then keep all of those little nuances as they remake it. And then my third would be like a straight, like them remastering it, which would to me, a remaster is almost like you're porting it, but then you're trying to like update and change the resolution and the frame rate and all of this and like optimize it. But then you get it. I feel like you get issues when you do that, like we've been talking about with lighting and with all this other bullshit.
I feel like that's just something with PS3 games, like 360 and PS3 games in general.
Yeah, they were very
the PS3 was weird. Like
they didn't have the best color palette.
They didn't have the best color palette. Then God of War 3 for some reason ran at like 40 frames per second. I was struggling 40 frames per second. Then the PS2 was just weird. So I feel like if going PS4 to 5, so like with Jedi Fallen Order, for example. Actually, I guess Jedi Fallen Order is bad just because that game's buggy in general. But like, let's say they give us like a Ghost of Tsushima update for free or whatever to upgrade. I mean, to PS5 free. It's not gonna happen, but I mean, it's already not happening. but let's say they did that right. I would much rather play the PS5 version because tools, especially now, are very versatile between porting things to like more bigger consoles, especially now at Sony since they're releasing games on PC.
Yeah.
They have to make their engines work on the new console, the old console, and PC. Especially with PC, they have to make that as versatile as possible just because of how many different GPUs and CPUs and all this crap on PC there is. Now we have Horizon on there and Days Gone is on there. What's that other game? The Kojima one. Death Stranding's on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
well,
I think
the architecture between the consoles is closer together, which is like a
the
big
architecture.
Yeah, which I think is like a big issue with like games that are being like ported and stuff or remastered between the 3 and the 4 or the 3 to anything really. I feel like that's why we also didn't get a lot of games that were on the 3. Granted, you know, they did come out on the 360 as well, but I feel like we didn't get a lot of or any like PS3 exclusives anywhere else other than the PS3.
Yeah. And that's also an issue with the PS2 because like people say like PS2 emulation's perfect now. It's not. There's a bunch of games that just don't work on PS2 emulators in general. That's just because back then that's how the console making business was. You made your own type of architecture. Getting PC parts the way it is now isn't as accessible as it used to be back then. There used to be like 1,000 manufacturers just for a CPU. Now it's like only 2.
Yeah.
So like now especially it's like it's super easy to just be like, because the PS5, like, let's be honest, there's nothing special about it. It's just a dumbed down PC or whatever.
Yep.
The only thing special about it is probably the controller, and that'll only be special for a few years. So there's nothing really changing the PS4 to the PS5 other than just stronger hardware in general. I think they're both x86 architectures. I forget the number. So I think if there is a quote unquote remaster on the PS5, which I feel is going to be more of a port of a PS4 game, I don't think we'll see the issues that we do with the PS3 to PS4 and 5. Well, I guess not 5, but to PS4.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely more accessible because you can see just by the games that are coming out, which is like, this is the issue that I've been having with trying to determine what games, whether I want to play it on the 4 or the 5, is that you have games that were coming out on the PS4 within the last, year or so that are getting basically moved to the 5 right now.
I'd say just play them on the 5 because they were definitely being worked on at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that the difference is not like too big. Like, there's a lot, but like the one that I'm thinking of in particular right now is like Mortal Shell, where it came out on the PS4 before the PS5 came out, and then now it's on the PS5. But they call it like Mortal Shell Enhanced Edition. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a weird like dilemma, but like it's definitely easier for them to work between consoles now because of architecture, and I think also because of just how close the resolutions, just graphics in general, like resolutions and frame rates and stability and things are between the 4 and the 5. Because when you're talking about the PS4, everything was running 1080p. You got 1080p, and I think everything was running at, I think everything, if it was running 1080p, it was running 60 frames. Not everything. There were definitely some 30 frame games, but there were games that were hitting 60 frames.
Devil May Cry 5 hit 60 frames.
Yeah, so like I think the difference between those two is more I don't know. I feel like it's more accessible also because like I don't remember. Is the PS5 true 4K or is it upscaled 4K?
It's true 4K.
So it is true 4K. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still,
it depends also on the game because like let's say they made The Last of Us 2 with like a higher fidelity on the PS5, right?
Mm-hmm.
With like stupid high fidelity, they'd probably want to bring that down to 1080p while wanting to make it 30 FPS or whatever, just to have like all those pretty graphics.
Yeah.
No, I said that wrong. Okay, it would be
1080p at 60.
It would probably be upscaled 4K just to make sure they had all those pretty graphics or whatever.
Okay.
But like PS4 games, they are gonna be PS4 games that are being like that are pro enhanced or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely gonna be upscaled 4K because they just weren't made with 4K. But like you go play, let's see, well, Spider-Man. You go play Spider-Man and you play in fidelity mode. That's gonna be true 2160p 4K.
Mm-hmm.
It's apparently possible for 8K. I don't have a TV that has 8K. I don't even know if there's any games out there that are made with 8K in mind.
I don't know if there's any.
It's apparently possible to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll be something that comes down the line, but I just think, I don't know. I'm kind of hopping off the I mean, I've been off the remaster train for a while, but I think I'm just kind of hopping off of it, like almost all the way. I'd rather just see a port or, if anything, a port or like a full blown remake with a different engine.
I think the difference between the PS3 remasters compared to like just like an updated version on the PS5 is that like with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it's pretty obvious they probably had dev kits way before anybody knew there were dev kits out there.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with like Ubisoft, like especially with the new Assassin's Creed, those games came out day and date on the same console.
Yeah.
So
Watch Dogs too.
So it's very obvious that they were both being made with the PS5 also in mind. The same thing with like the new Yakuza game, Like a Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
It got delayed for the PS5 just because of some stupid exclusivity deal or whatever. But it came out on Xbox One and the Series Xboxes at the same time. So it's not like they made the game for the PS4, then we're like, oh, let's bring it over to the PS5. They were made at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the difference between that and the PS3, where the PS3, it was like years down the line. Like, when did Assassin's Creed 2 come out? Like 2009?
10, I believe.
10?
Yeah.
And then the remaster came out like what, 2016, 17?
I'm looking at it right now. AC2 on the PS3 came out in it was November 2009.
Nice.
And then the remaster came out in November of 2016. So 7 years later.
Yeah, 7 years later. So there's like this big gap in between both of them, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously it wasn't made with like the PS4 in mind. So then they were like, oh, let's add this other stuff to make people think it looks prettier. But then they just ruined it. The only thing I really don't like between the 4 and the 5 versions, just from what I've seen, is the change in not light. I guess, yeah, it is lighting. Just the poor implementation of ray tracing in their games. So like the good implementations would be Spider-Man Miles Morales and Spider-Man 4K, not 4K, PS4 Spider-Man on the PS5. Stupid name.
PS4,
the remaster of PS4 Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which that one's super buggy. I would not play that one if I were you. But
The PS5
that's like
one?
a good... Yeah, the PS5 version was super buggy for me. That's because that was like a straight up remaster.
Yeah, I mean, for that, I'll probably play like the PS4, and then I'll play Miles Morales on the PS5, and then see what kind of happens after. Because I know that they made the remaster of the PS4 Spider-Man, and then they also made Miles Morales on the PS4 as well.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. They like made them on both. You can play both of them on both consoles. Which like just goes to show for Miles Morales, like Miles Morales wasn't made specifically for PlayStation 5 because it did come out on PlayStation 4 as well.
Yeah.
So,
but that's an implementation of ray tracing that I would say is good.
Mm-hmm.
Also with Ratchet and Clank, which is a PS4 game. But specifically with PS4 and PS5 games, that's a good implementation, I would say. But then you have like these other games like the new Judgment has ray tracing. Not the new one, but the PS4 Judgment on PS5 has ray tracing, and it just completely destroyed the lighting in the game. So that's where I would, if they don't have an option to turn off ray tracing, I wouldn't play it on the PS5 because you could probably get it cheaper on the PS4.
Yeah,
and in my opinion, it would look better than the PS5 version.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way with like with AC2 and everything. It's actually interesting. So I was looking at I just went to look at AC4 on the PS3 because AC4 was another game that came out PS3, PS4 at the same time, but it actually didn't. AC4 came out on the PS3 on October 29th of 2013, and it came out on the PS4 on it says North America came out on November 15th and EU came out on November 29th. So they actually came out a month apart from each other, which I did not know.
Yeah, but I think that's more because the PS4 came out in November.
Yeah, but it would be weird. Like, why wouldn't they just wait and put them out at the same time?
Because they got these stupid release schedules of
Yeah, I mean, but all other
They gotta-
Assassin's
they
Creeds
gotta
come out
release
in
their games.
November. Like, that's what's fucking stupid. You know what? You know what marks the 7-year anniversary this year, which we should get a port of?
AC1?
AC Unity.
Oh, AC.
Yeah, we should get a port of that. Well,
I feel like that game would probably run like 1,000 times better on the PS4.
or you mean the 5?
I mean the PS5, yeah.
Dude, I want, like, that's something that I actually want. Like, I know we talk about it. I feel like we always end up talking about AC in this podcast because it's like I still consider it one of my favorite franchises, and it is kind of like what got me into trophy hunting. So it even if it is shit, it has a special place in my heart. It always will. But I really want them to remake or like port Unity or something. Unity is just such a good... I want them to go back... Like, I want them to restructure their games like Unity. I think that's why I want them to go... Or to port it. But I also want an AC1, like, remake or something, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah, well, who knows at this point, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. Who
now
knows?
that they're making Assassin's Creed Infinity or whatever it's called.
It probably won't be called that. That's like the code name right now. But you know what blows my mind? And we can move on after this, because I don't want this to go for too long. What blows my mind is that every single year after year, what costume do we get in every Assassin's Creed game?
Altair.
We get Altair's costume in every fucking game, but we cannot get a remake or even like a remaster of the first game. Like, it's like they want to shun the actual game away, but they embrace the character in the game. Like, I've never seen a company do that before, where they like embrace a character so much, but then you've remastered every single one of your PS3 Assassin's Creed games, other than the one that you're like boasting about in every game that you make. Like, we don't get an Ezio skin. We don't get I think we got a Connor skin. I don't know. We don't get a Kenway skin. We don't get a freaking
There's a Connor skin in I forget which remaster.
Like,
I think it was Assassin's Creed Rogue one.
Yeah, I think you do get that. But like, you would think like, okay, the biggest game in the franchise is Ezio. So you would think that they would put like an Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio robe, an Assassin's Creed Brotherhood Ezio robe, an Assassin's Creed Revelations Ezio robe. That's 3 robes that you could make microtransactions for. But what do you decide to do? Altair. Like, what? Who was running this company? Bunch of dummies. I don't want to bash on it forever. We'll see what happens. I guess the point I was trying to get at is I really want the remakes and stuff and remasters. Especially the remasters. I want them to go away. The remakes, I don't care. Cool. If someone wants to reimagine the game, cool. I'm still going to go, like Dead Space, I'm still going to go play Dead Space on the PS3 when I get around to it. But I'll probably play the remake, just like Demon's Souls, just like Shadow of the Colossus. I want to go play all these games, even though Shadow of the Colossus came out on the PS2. I still want to play Shadow of the Colossus on the PS3 before I go play the PS4 one, because I feel like it's just going to be two somewhat different experiences.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Mass Effect. Anyway, that's... Is that all you've been playing? Mass Effect and Judgment?
And talking about remasters, I've also played the Doom 3 remaster and the Judgment.
Nice. So Wave's just been on the remaster train.
Yeah, I'm not... I just don't have that much fun with, like, quote-unquote new games. Or whatever. That much anymore. Just because, like... I say that while playing Judgment, which is a new game. But, like, I feel like so many of them are, like, the same. It's just boring.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, this is actually giving me an idea. Like, I think, because we've talked about it between the three of us, where we want to almost maybe expand this channel to be additional, to create additional content, right? Part of me wants to, like, expand it to the point of almost making video essays, but for trophies, kind of. Trophies in gaming, but, like, not to the extent of, like, what we used to see from, what were those 2 cancerous channels back, like, a few years ago?
Stay Patient?
No. They were like gaming ones, and they basically made like video essays on games, but like they were
the Why It Failed or whatever.
Yeah. No. Oh my God. Who
It
am I?
wasn't. It didn't just fail. It was murdered.
Yeah. It was all those games, and they would go into like they would talk about all of these games, and they would say like why Anthem, why Anthem failed, why Anthem wasn't successful or whatever. It was murdered, and they would go into it, and they would go into details. But like they were making a new video like every few days about games that you would have had to play for like 50 to 100 hours to get through. So you knew damn well they weren't playing through the games.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm not trying to say like we're any better, but like I feel like us being trophy hunters, we've experienced a multitude of games, and we definitely have, been in the trenches for games, whether it's stupid multiplayer or whatever. But I think it would be
I've
like
been behind the trenches of making one also. So.
Yeah, Waves have seen both sides of it, but I don't know. I feel like making content like video essays. We are gonna eventually probably get into other things like list videos, but I feel like video essays would be interesting. But I feel like a video essay on that topic in particular about how like new games are boring or how new games just aren't fun would be like an interesting thing, because I partially think it comes from like us growing up. That's always something that I have in my mind. Like, maybe games are boring because I'm just getting boring or I'm just getting old, so I'm not having fun with them. But I do truly think that the way that games are evolving are, they're just not fun.
I just feel like, I don't think it's because I'm getting older. For me, I feel like gaming is just something I'm gonna always love doing, because...
No, I agree.
When I say I feel like new games are boring me, I feel like I should probably be more specific and say that new AAA games are boring me.
Yep.
Because
they just regurgitate the same stuff from either their previous games, or they leech off of an idea of an indie game or something, and they don't innovate on much. They do innovate some, but they don't innovate much. But I think of games like the new Assassin's Creed RPGs, and how if Ubisoft wanted to make an RPG, why did they ruin that brand to make an RPG? Like, they could have made a game like Immortals Phoenix Rising back when Origins came out, and had like, instead of you pivoting Origins to a different, or instead of pivoting that trilogy to a different style of game, why not just keep that style of game, keep that Assassin's Creed name, and make a new IP as well that could be RPG? Then you would have the best of both worlds. But I guess what I'm trying to get at with like new games is like the Assassin's Creed games, and mainly open world games in general, have gotten to the point of being so expansive that they're boring to play. There's so much to do and there's so much to see that they're just boring to play, because it takes so much time to do all of it.
I feel like it's because games now, at least in the AAA space, are too information driven, if that makes sense. Like, now
there has to be a reasoning behind everything that happens.
Yeah, so like back then, there wasn't this, like, there were player numbers and like estimated player numbers and stuff like that, but there wasn't necessarily the meticulous driven data or whatever that there is now, where, okay, this person stared at this thing this number of times, so that means most people would love to stare at this thing a number of times, so that means we have to throw this everywhere on the map like 1,000 times. Also, this person had said they had a lot of fun on this time, so and then all these other people correlated that idea, and so that means we have to put that mechanic everywhere in the map now.
They
so
tried to use that with like DSP. That shit was funny.
Which, like, to an extent, that is what games have always been. Go look at any horror game, and you know exactly where you need to go because you see a light at the door, or that is the only thing lit up in the room. Or Uncharted, look at yellow paint on the climbable things. to an extent that has always been there, right? That's different from what I'm talking about, I feel, because that is more the psychology of games, of tricking you to go to think that you're doing something, when in reality the game's just tricking you into saying, hey, this is where you need to go. While the other thing is, oh, our game design is now dictated by the numbers of what people say is good in a game, right? And so the numbers say this is what's good in the game. The numbers say people want to have the number says people want to have 1,000 missions on the map, because then they say that gives their game value or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what most people who are not necessarily playing a game every single month, or not month, but buying a new game every single year would say, right? Because they would normally want like a quote unquote bang for their buck, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. I feel like that's the issue now, right? The game design is dictated by what exactly the numbers say. So now, before they make like a game design decision, they have to be like, oh, but wait, we need to look at these numbers over here, because if we don't do what they say, then people aren't going to want to play our game. Which we'll go into a discussion later with Shawn, Layden, that games now are just too afraid to take risks in general, for high budget reasons. Just go look at any open world games.
It's all the same.
They look amazing. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. Assassin's Creed, what's the new one? Valhalla. And Snickle has said this time and time again. The environments look amazing, and I will never take that away from them. It looks amazing, but there is a cost to that, right? They have to pay all these people this much money. They have to pay for the software, which I can tell you from personal experience, that software costs a shit ton of money, and that's just for an individual license.
Yeah, and
like, let's say
you gotta cut corners other places to save.
Yeah, so like with Maya, I'm having to learn Blender now, because Maya, just for an individual license, which is normally cheaper than the corporate license, it's $235 per month.
Yikes.
That's on top of other stuff that you would probably need, which is Substance Painter, which I think is actually cheaper now, but back then it was like $1,000-something for a perpetual license.
Yeah,
that's Substance Designer, same thing. There's just so much that goes into making a game, and people ask for the most realistic of graphics. I would be fine if a game looked like a PS3 game, like a late PS3 game, and we still got what was interesting and fun experiences that the PS3 had. Like, people I was looking at some of the reviews back then of Never Dead, and people were like, oh, it's just another gimmick of these third and first person shooters at this time, trying to separate themselves from the crowd or whatever. It's such a stark contrast that back then that was the complaint, right?
It wasn't a norm.
Yeah, because now you go to now,
everything's the same.
Yeah, go look at Call of Duty. Every game's Call of Duty. Like, if they're a first person military shooter, it's Call of Duty. Or it's Battlefield.
Or RPGs. Like, every RPG wants to be The Witcher.
Yeah, every RPG has turned into The Witcher. You go look at Sony, just Sony exclusives in general back then.
Every Sony exclusive is the same nowadays. It's the same, but it's reskinned. Like, if you look at anything, like, compare Horizon Zero. I don't want to shit on these games because I like them, but like, look at, which I'm just an honest person. That's why I'm gonna say it. But like, compare Horizon Zero Dawn to Ghost of Tsushima. Like structurally wise,
They're the same.
they're the same game. Even narratively wise, they're somewhat similar.
Yeah, they have the 3 big areas that you unlock after a certain part of the story.
Yeah, the only thing that's different is you have different characters, different combat. Like the nuances are different, but structurally, they're the same game. And I think I made this point on stream the other day where, and again, mainly with Assassin's Creed, because I feel like Assassin's Creed is just the biggest issue right now that I have with gaming, where they used to make, and they still make, like you said, I will envy the environments that they make. I will appreciate the environments, their everything that they do graphically, everything. Like I think that, you know, Ubisoft is one of the best. They make you feel like you're actually, you know, where you are and you don't feel out of place. But like you said, Waves, you know, I think that a lot of people that aren't gamers now, and even some gamers, I would say gamers that are not, I don't want to say educated because that sounds bad, but like gamers that aren't, what's the word I'm thinking of? Gamers that aren't seasoned, gamers that don't play a lot of games. They only play a few games every once in a while. And people that don't play games, when they sit there and they look at a game, like if you were to go ask anybody right now, like, hey, I just paid $70 for this game and it has 1,000 missions in it. And, you know, I think I'm going to have so much fun. That, you know, the person you're talking to, if they don't play a game, they're going to think, wow, 1,000 missions. Like you're really getting your money here. Like you're really going to be playing this game. It is worth that $70. But like, what if out of those 1,000 missions, 900 of them are the same thing over and over again?
It'll most likely be the same thing.
Do you actually want to do that? Like, and a good analogy is like cars. Anybody that's into cars will understand. But like if I was to sit there and tell you, like, I have 2 cars that are going to be racing, one of them has 1,000 horsepower and one of them has 800 horsepower. Everybody would probably think like, oh, well, the car with 1,000 horsepower is going to obviously beat the car with 800 horsepower. Like, that's what you would think. Oh, it's got more power. But I didn't tell you anything else. I didn't tell you that the car that has 1,000 horsepower weighs 2 times more than the car that is 800 horsepower. I told you that I didn't tell you that the car that has 800 horsepower has fine-tuned suspension and everything. Like, I didn't give you all those details. So now you look at it and you go, oh wait, maybe you're right. Maybe the 1,000 horsepower car isn't going to win. Like, it's the same thing with gaming. Like, you could have 500 missions in your game, but if they're all the same, no one wants to do all 500 missions. Rather than if you have a game that has 100 missions and every mission is a different experience and it's in a different area and it makes you explore the tiny nuances of the map. That's what's better. Same thing with like map size as a whole. Like, yeah, you may have a big ass map, right? And I will always say it's awesome to see a big map, see a mountain, whatever far away, and know that you can go and you can go over to that mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. The thought of that is awesome. Actually implementing that into your game is a fucking nightmare, I feel like, because no one wants a huge map and you only explore a corner of it one time. That's not fun. Yeah. Like that's not fun at all. Like, no one wants to do that. There's so many parts of all of these new Assassin's Creed games where unless you're a trophy hunter or unless you're like a 100% completionist type of person, you'll never experience these areas just because there's no reason for you to go to them. Narratively, no reason. It doesn't push any narrative. It doesn't push anything at all. The only reason you would go there is for your collectathon to find all your shit.
The one I remember the most in Assassin's Creed was that area where the first few DLCs took place.
In Odyssey?
In Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah, they were all.
Forget where. That area right there was in the main game, but there's literally nothing there. That was literally like pretty much a DLC area. Mm-hmm. That could have been like carved out from the entire main game, and if the collectibles weren't there, you would have probably never gone to that area at all.
Yeah.
Like, in the entire story, you never go into that area. That could have been a DLC area.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it blows my mind. And like I said, it's definitely I think the word I was looking for was like uncultured, even though that's probably not the right way. Like the uncultured gamer, the uneducated gamer, or just someone who's not a gamer in general, who doesn't have knowledge of other games. You know, when you look at a game and you just look at more means better. That's what people look at. Oh, you have,
You know what?
your map is bigger, it's better. Oh, you have more missions, it's better. Oh, your game is longer, it's better. Oh, you have more gear, it's better. Oh, you have more levels and more abilities, it's better. I've played through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and you've played through some of it too, Waves. The amount of fucking abilities that the game has, not even abilities, like the upgrade tree, that whole thing, like, does it look cool? Yeah. Does it mean anything? Absolutely the fuck not. Like, you're not going to tell the difference between you getting this upgrade and this upgrade. You're never going to be able to tell the difference. And like, having stuff like that is stupid compared to having a game like Ghost of Tsushima or something where you unlock abilities, or even like a game like Sekiro, right? Where like you unlock abilities or different moves, and like every upgrade that you make is valuable to your gaming experience, rather than upgrading this thing in Assassin's Creed that says that you're going to have 0.3% less range damage. I don't care about that. I don't like those numbers don't matter to me. I want to be able to, and yes, Assassin's Creed has abilities that you can use, but those upgrades and shit are useless. But I think people just look at it from the outside and say, like, it's literally more equals better. That's the general like consensus that people come to.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what I think it is necessarily? I think it's people who grew up when I feel like console wars were like at its peak, like during PS3 and 360 era. Because the one thing I can remember so much from the PS3 that I never heard about on the PS2 were graphics. We're like, oh, do the graphics look crazy? Do they look insane? Do they look realistic? And so if that's what people's like perception of what is important in games has always been, that's what their perception will always be, you know?
Yep.
So like you and me, I feel like we grew up more like, yeah, PS3 was probably the one we played the most purely because it existed in our lives the most, like making games for it existed in our lives the most. But we both grew up playing the PS2 and the PS1 game, like those consoles, right? And Nintendo 64, where the games couldn't look as crazy stupid as they could right now. Crazy stupid good as they look now. So the thing that not changed it, but would make them different from everything else that was just a blocky mess was, is it fun? Like, is the gameplay engaging, right? So every game was different, I feel. And then that seeped into the PS3 still, because game development was still like at its peak, I feel. So like you got like weird new shooters like Time Shift where you could pause time, and like, sure, it was a gimmick or whatever, but it was something, right?
But yeah, it was innovation.
Yeah, then there's Never Dead where you can like take parts of your body off. There was Wolfenstein 09 where you can shoot the I forget what they're called, but they like send the enemies flying in the air while they're just like floating in the air, right?
Yeah.
there's just, it just was different back then, and then like close to the end of the PS3 I feel is like when everything started becoming the same. Where, and I feel like when your only perception of playing games, especially with the PS3 because it was so long, was the thing that people were fighting about were, oh, which one looks prettier? Oh, Halo 3 looks prettier than God of War 3 or whatever. That's not true, but just an example. And then that seeped over into the PS4. I don't know if you remember this, but like the fight a lot that I heard from the beginning of the PS4 and the Xbox One was, oh, the Xbox One can only do 900p, the PS4 can do 1000p or whatever. PS4 is better and stuff like that. And that's what I feel people are missing out on. Like, these people would not survive in the PS1 and PS2 era, where games were just weird as fuck, where PS1 games ran at like 25 frames per second.
Yeah.
PS2 games were at 480p if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the topic of graphics has always been somewhat of a thing. Because if you go back, like, you know, as graphics evolve, like, clearly it's gonna impress. It's the most impressing thing to somebody because it's the first thing you see. So therefore, it is the easiest thing to impress somebody with. Therefore, the people that aren't, as I will say again, cultured, that's the only thing they look at. Oh, that game looks like shit, I'm not playing it. I've heard people say that before. Oh, that game looks like shit, I'm not playing that. Why would I play that? Well, like, your loss. But I think the problem, the main problem, is that the PS3 era, or this is a piece of the pie, because there's a big pie here, and the pie is, you know, the way the game's changed. And there's a bunch of different pieces to it. And I think a piece of the pie is that the PS3 era, the PS3 and 360 era, not only was it the start of, you know, a console war, and like you're saying, Waves, the whole graphic, you know, fidelity and all that, and that's what people cried about. I think a lot of those arguments came down to the easy accessibility of reviews of games. Because before the PS3 and 360 era, before the internet was a big thing, if you wanted a review of a game, you had to go look, you had to have a subscription to a magazine, or you went to, I remember when I was younger, I would go to the dentist and I would read the magazines at the dentist, and they would have game reviews in there. You would go and talk to people at stores like GameStop, and you would get, you would talk to the people that are actually able to play the games, and you would get their, you know, their take on the game. I think with the accessibility of so many reviews of games, and there being so many outlets that people go to for reviews, not only gamers but developers as a whole. I mean, like you said with Never Dead, you watched a review of it, and part of the review was, cool game, but the idea of being able to throw your body parts is a little outside the box. And I don't think that's what people are looking for. Well, now you have investors of that company saying, well, did you hear the review? Why the hell would you go outside the box? Stay inside the box next time. And then you get all of these bland ass, boring ass games that are all the same thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Which just goes back to, like, my original point of games being too information led.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think, and like you were saying originally, you know, games aren't taking risks, and I think games don't take the risks for the reason of not only backlash from community, but backlash from reviewers, and wanting, you know, every game wants to be a 10 out of 10. And I get people don't want to make a shit game. You don't want your game to get reviewed at like a 3 out of 10, or, you know, you probably don't want your game to get reviewed anything less than a 10 out of 10. That's what everyone strives for. But
what even is a 10 out of 10 anymore? Because
it's so,
a lot of the games
subjective.
that, like, a lot of the games that get a 10 out of 10, I don't have fun in.
No,
I don't enjoy them.
No.
The games I have the most fun with are like 7 and 8 out of 10s.
I'm gonna look at something. I'm gonna look at this is a game that you, me, Brian, anybody really, I've never heard a good thing about this game that came out a few years ago. You probably know what I'm talking about. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. No, I other than your everyday average Joe that played the game, that, you know, that, again, an uncultured gamer, other than them, everybody that I've talked to, everybody that I've listened to that has talked about this game has ragged it has drug it through the mud all over the people who were quote unquote Assassin's Creed YouTubers didn't even like the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to an outlet like IGN. What do you think IGN gave Assassin's Creed Odyssey in a review out of 10?
Like a 9 or 8.
It got a 9.2 out of 10, and it won an editor's choice. That just goes to show the disconnect. Like, that's what it comes down to. There's a disconnect. That's such a disconnect between what the people reviewing it are saying and what the people are playing it are saying. And I think part of that comes down to the people that are reviewing it, they're not playing the whole game. Like, these people are not playing through the entire game. They're not doing all the collectibles. If these people were playing through the entire game, clearing the map, doing all that, then they would say in their review, this is a total collectathon. There's no purpose to any of the collectibles. But no, you get them saying, oh, the combat's cool. It's got an interesting, interesting story. The whole cult of Cosmos is cool. There's no regard to useless shit in the game. And then, then they praise it like it's the next best thing since sliced bread, when it isn't.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And then what happens is then shareholders of Ubisoft, they hear that, oh, IGN gave this a 9.2 out of 10. It's got an editor's choice. Whatever the hell you guys did in Odyssey, do it again in the next game. But then you have everybody else crying out saying, this game is shit. Let me actually do a little thing here. So because this is a cool thing. Metacritic, you guys probably know, Metacritic has the ability to pull all of the reviews from reputable sources and also from users, which is cool. Kind of weird because people can also review bomb it, but it is what it is. So
yeah.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the PlayStation 4 has a Metacritic score of an 83. There's a company on here, a pretty reputable company, that gave it a 100. Apparently, Assassin's Creed Odyssey to Games Radar is a perfect game. Nothing wrong with it at all. Not a single thing wrong with it. Now, the user score, if we go by, I don't know why the user score doesn't keep the meta score. I don't know why they go by divisible of 10. The user score, if we go by Metacritic score, is a 64, a 6.4. So you can tell by Metacritic just the divide and the disconnect in the gamer to the reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, so the critic reviews, there was 86 critic reviews, right? 73 of the critic reviews were positive, 13 of them were mixed, 0 negative. The user reviews had, I don't know the math because there's a lot, but the user reviews had 445 positive reviews, pretty good. 166 mixed reviews, not bad. 259 negative reviews of the game. So you have a critic review giving 0 negative, and then you have a user review giving 259 negative to their 445 positive. I just feel like there's a disconnect, because if you go to a game like, let's look up Ghost of Tsushima, right? It may have
I just looked it up also. Ghost of Tsushima is
Ghost of Tsushima, weird. It may have gotten review bombed by users because of, Xbox, right? Ghost of Tsushima has a Metacritic score of 83. The same thing as Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
What? But then it has a user score of a 9.2 or a 92. That's clearly, okay, we're within 10 points there. That's not really a disconnect. What the Metacritic is saying is what the users are saying. Typically, that's a good place to be. Within 10 points, I think is pretty reasonable. But when you have Assassin's Creed that's 6.4 for a user and 83 for Metacritic, that's almost a 20-point difference or a 2-point difference that between the Metacritic and I just feel like there's a disconnect. But like that's part of the reason why these companies keep making the same games, because they're getting praised by these reputable reviewers, but the users are like, this is fucking trash, bro. Like, why are you making this?
I think that's one of the issues is the is the I don't know what the word specifically for it is, but the like putting, I feel like they've put these critics on a pedestal in a way.
Yep.
Because like most of these critics just kind of are YouTubers and not really, you know, play games, and they don't, how do you say it, like
they don't have the time to do it. They don't have the time to play all of these games fully through to get like a full experience of a game, which I get, it's their job. I totally get it, but the other,
I feel like
not only the time aspect, but the other thing is like, I feel like, and this just goes for anybody reviewing anything, I feel like they're almost scared to say the true thing, because if they say anything negative, you get blacklisted.
Yeah.
So there's almost that like that bribery side of it, which is like, if you say anything bad, you're never getting a review copy. Like, and to my response, it would be like, if you can't handle my criticism of your game, I don't want your review copy. Like, I don't want to play your future games if you can't handle my criticism, almost.
Yeah. I feel like it's also just strange how some people just accept things in the game, like fandom or whatever, I guess. Because there's some of these reviewers who just don't finish the game. Like, not even saying, I'm not even talking about getting the platinum. Like, I'm talking about just finishing the story.
Yeah.
Some of these people don't even finish the stories. And you go look at a movie critic, and if you go talk to any movie buff and they tell you, oh yeah, I like the movie but I only watched half of it, no one's gonna take that movie critic seriously.
Yeah.
How are you gonna say, oh, a movie's good or a movie's bad if you haven't even seen the movie? You haven't finished it all.
And to be fair, like, movies are shorter than video games, but most reputable movie critics, and like even people that aren't movie critics, like I hear people that will go and watch a movie 4 times when it's out in the theater. So can you imagine how many times a movie critic is watching a game or watching a movie? Like, they're probably watching it a dozen times to watch it from a different perspective, or to look for nuances or pay attention. Like, that's what they're doing. And like you said, if someone is going to watch a movie for 30 minutes and then turn it off and then go and give a review about it, like, no one's going to listen to them. They're going to look at them like they're crazy.
I feel like when it comes to criticism of games in particular, there's only a few times where you can stop a game halfway through and then just be able to write a criticism of it. And those 2 times is when the game's stupid bad, like just completely awful, crashing on you all the time, just bugs galore everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's one of the times when you can just stop the game and be like, yeah, this is a bad game, or whatever.
Like Cyberpunk when it
when it first came out. And then second is when it's a game that you can't necessarily finish
because it's like a games as a service or something.
Because it's a games as a service, yeah. Like fucking, what's that game? Like Destiny.
You
technically can't finish Destiny, right?
No.
So like, you can't really review that if you only finish the game. So I feel like those are the only times when it's acceptable to not necessarily finish a game.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna review a game that has a very, like, at least story-wise, has a very blatant beginning to end, that is what you need to do. And I think you should also do it on the difficulty that most people are gonna play it on. That's another thing where like some person will play the game and they'll say, "Oh, it wasn't hard at all," and then another person will go play the game because they chose normal, and that's like kicking their ass. First of all, if you're getting your ass kicked on normal, like, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
But like, it's because the reviewer played the game on like story mode.
Yeah, they played it on like the easiest mode. Well, the other thing that really irritates me, and I've made this, I made this point before, and I'll make this point until it stops, is all the time, 99% of the time, 100% of the time, when a game gets reviewed, it's getting reviewed at the day of release or within the week of release. Even sometimes games are getting reviewed pre-day one patch. So like the developer knows that they need to put a patch out, but they can't put it out because they have to wait until the day one to put it out. So they're playing the absolute vanilla version of the game and then reviewing it. And then you have a game like Assassin's Creed Unity that vanilla was trash, but then if you played it, a year or two after it came out when all of the updates were finished and the game was finally running properly, it's a completely different experience. Mm-hmm. So it's like, is it fair to give it that same review as vanilla as it is to a year or two after when it's completely finished? I don't know. That's like a whole nother thing that I talk about because games evolve. Games nowadays are different than when they, 10 years ago even, where games evolve as they come out. Games have updates. Games have even games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla that's supposed to be a single player game. They not only do they come out with their big updates, they have little updates that come out in between that add different content and things like that. And it's an ever evolving game. So is it really fair to give it a review vanilla and people listen to it and then they're like, well, you missed this whole part, and it like maybe a year later someone listens to that review and they're like, well, they didn't tell me about this and this, and it's like, well, it wasn't out then, so like you couldn't really judge it on that stuff. Like that's a whole different like can of worms that I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Well, good, Waves. I'm glad you've been playing some good games. I just realized we're at like almost an hour and a half, and we are still in the intro, which is freaking crazy. That's the Off Topic podcast, ye old Rogue Hunters podcast.
Also, we gotta call this episode the one without Brian.
Oh,
because this is the first one he's missing.
We will definitely do that for sure. The one without Brian. So, if you want to know what I've been playing, it actually hasn't been too much. So
you got a big boy plat, didn't you?
I did. Well, not like super big, but kind of. I finished up and I platinumed Need for Speed Shift, the first one. So that was cool. I 100% and platted that. So that's done. That's one of the, or I guess I technically have 2 of the 4 Need for Speed games going down at the end of the month, at the end of August, because we're not in August yet. So I was able to get that done. That's cool. And then right after I did Shift, I hopped into the Run and started playing that. And I finished up stage 7, 8, 9, and 10, which I didn't even realize would take me literally like 30 minutes. Why I didn't finish them years ago, I'm not sure. So I finished up the stages, and then, which finished the game for me. And then I went back and did the extreme difficulty trophy, which was interesting because you basically race. It's harder to race against the train than it is the actual car that you're racing against. So
yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty cool. And then I started to knock out the challenge series as well. I didn't play today at all, but I knocked out, I've done 4 of the 10 challenge series so far. So I'm hoping, maybe, possibly, I may have this platinum by tomorrow. It just depends, because the one thing that I've realized is the challenge series like aren't too bad right now. I think they get harder as you go along because your vehicle tier goes up. And I find that the challenge that's like the most difficult to do is typically I think they call them the time attack challenges, where they kind of give you a car and then they tell you to beat the track in a certain amount of time.
And you have to hit the checkpoints.
Yeah, you have to hit like 5 checkpoints. And I think it's not the actual like course or car that's hard to drive. It's the fact that they crank the AI controlled cars, not like the racers, but like the pedestrian cars. They crank them up to like 11 out of 10 with their placement, and it's random every time. So you don't like run it and like every time you run it there's going to be a truck around the corner to your left here. Sometimes you go around the corner and there's nothing, and sometimes you go around the corner and there's a car coming in both directions, and you got to get fucked. So those are kind of, even though they're irritating, they're kind of random and trial and error, and you just got to keep going. So yeah, I'm getting through that. I'm in the winter one right now, the winter blast.
I mean, you're going through it way faster than I am, which is to be expected.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm gonna try to get them done by tomorrow night. I'm gonna stream tomorrow night. So hopefully the goal is to have, my goal was to have Need for Speed the Run plat by, well, my goal was to have Shift and the Run done by the end of the month. So basically by Sunday, technically the beginning of August. Because I'm not going to be here this weekend, but I'll be here Sunday evening. So my goal was to have it done by Sunday. I think, honestly, I can have it done by then. Honestly, I think I can have it done by tomorrow night. If I put a little bit of time in during the day and maybe try to do 2 of the challenge series, I'll have, that seems like 4 for the night. And then the only thing that I'm looking at that's going to be kind of irritating is the level 30, which I thought that there was like a glitch or something that you could do for it. I may have to look at it because I'm not even level 25. Like, I don't even know how to get like XP faster.
Yeah, you like get XP like nothing.
It's so,
I know you
fucking
get
slow.
You get more XP if you have more rewinds.
Yeah,
or whatever
rewinds.
They're called.
Yeah, but you only get 50 XP per
But it's like
rewind.
nothing, yeah.
It's literally pennies, and you need millions to level up. I guess
think it's because they wanted you to like do the multiplayer shit ton, but
well, I think it's they wanted you to do the multiplayer, but they also wanted you to probably play through the game again on Extreme, because you don't unlock Extreme until you beat the game.
yeah.
So maybe they wanted you to fully play back through the game and not just do the last mission. But I could have swore that there was a forum post that was saying there was like an easy level 30, and I kind of looked past it at the time because I was like, oh, what, like this will be easy, but it's not. It's a pain in the ass. So I'm gonna have to look some stuff up. But yeah, I'm thinking I will probably be done I'll be done the whole game by hopefully tomorrow night. If not, I'll make progress and then wait to stream it on Friday or on Sunday. I mean, when I get home.
I'm gonna need your training.
Oh yeah,
whatever.
For sure. We can sit in a call again and do it just like we did Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor. That was a good time. But after I do the run, I'm gonna be starting up on Shift 2 right after, which I wasn't expecting to be starting as soon as I am, but I was trying to give myself like a month to do Shift 2 just because it's more of a big boy. But honestly, man, after I played through Shift 1, I'm not worried about Shift 2.
Because you know what you should be worried about?
Max Payne 3?
No, the 3-player trophy that we need for Shift 2.
I'm gonna have to find somebody to. I have it, but I'll have to find somebody when I'm gonna 100% find somebody when I'm on it full time. But yeah, the only like what sucks in Shift 2 is obviously the King of the Hill trophy, which Waves and I already did. The other thing that sucks is you have to master every single location at day and night separately, which sucks. But when I was doing Shift 1, which I'm assuming has less courses than Shift 2, so you know there's a little more of a complexity there. But I basically mastered every course when I was playing Shift 1, other than I needed to master one corner at the Nürburgring and like a few corners throughout the shorter variants of the Nürburgring, but every other course throughout the game I mastered. So I think as I'm naturally playing through the career mode, I'm gonna, you know, obviously try to master everything. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm not as worried as I thought I was gonna be. because I really thought that it was going to be more of a pain, but I really don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, you're kind of flying through the run, honestly. Like, what, you got four of the gold trophies, yeah, in like one day?
Yeah, I got 4 of the challenge, or I got, yeah, I mean, technically, I got 3 challenge series in one day. Not even within one day, within like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was able to get 3 of the challenge series done, and then, so, I mean, I'm not too worried. Like I said, I'm probably gonna, you know, tomorrow during like my lunch break or something, I'll probably play and try to get like a few more, because if I can get like 3 or 4 challenge series done, and then I only have to do, you know, 2 or 3 on stream tomorrow night, I'll definitely be able to get it done, depending on what happens with the levels, of course. But yeah, it's not bad. The thing about the run is, I feel like the idea of the run is a cool idea. Like the idea of having a race that goes across the country is a cool idea. I like that they put big set pieces in the game, so like you drive past places and there's like a giant waterfall, or you know, you're driving through an avalanche or something. Like shit like that is cool, right? But I just feel like it isn't Need for Speed. Because when people think of Need for Speed, they think of like open world racing, but to be fair, like it kind of is Need for Speed, because original Need for Speed wasn't open world. It was like closed circuit. So obviously not like simulation like Shift, but it was like closed circuit racing. So I guess it's more of its roots than open world Need for Speeds. But I think when people think of Need for Speed nowadays, they think of like open world customization and all that, and the run did not have the open world aspect. It did have the customization, slightly preset customization, but it did not have the open world aspect that I think everybody loves from a Need for Speed game.
You know what I'm surprised about?
What's that?
With this game?
What's that?
Is that it's made by what's it called? It's made by the people who made Most Wanted on the PS2.
Yeah, Black Box.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know
It's
something
crazy
funny?
because I liked Most Wanted a lot on the PS2.
Wait, it's actually interesting. I'm gonna pull something up here because I'm pretty. Yeah, okay. So Black Box, Black Box is kind of like a pretty beloved developer, and they've made some things that people have probably really liked. Like Wave said, they made the Need for Speed Most Wanted, and I think that was 2005. They made all 3 Skate games, so Skate 1, 2, and 3. They made Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. They made Need for Speed World, which was only on the PC. It was like the open world Need for Speed, like MMO style. They made a few like sports games. They made Need for Speed Underground. I don't know if they made Underground 2, but they made Underground. They made Need for Speed Pro Street, which was a phenomenal game. They made Need for Speed Carbon, which was a phenomenal game. They made, sadly, Need for Speed Undercover, which was not such a phenomenal game. And then their last game was The Run. But like every game that they've put out has been like a pretty good game. Other than Undercover, I would say every game that they've put out has been somewhat of a banger, as the kids would say. But yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't know they made the skate games.
Yeah, they went down shortly after The Run came out, which is kind of sad. I think that was more of like an EA thing, kind of sucking them in. I also noticed when I was looking through The Run that there was another developer that helped them, which was called Firebrand Games. And Firebrand Games made or helped make a little game called Ferrari Challenge, Cars 2, and we have a little connection here. Fast and Furious Showdown.
Oh my.
So yeah, I mean that's a little that makes sense to why the physics in The Run are kind of weird. I've been complaining about that with Shift, where the physics have been kind of funky, and part of me was saying like the physics are funky because they tried to be a simulation game. But and we talked about it. They also have, which I think is pretty advanced at the time, they had like tire deformation. like real time. Like you could see the tire deforming, which is like really cool. But if you ever like when you get to that game, Waves, when you take a corner, like if you're riding the wall, right, just try this. If you're riding the wall like fast and then the wall starts to turn, as you go around the corner, your car just like kind of starts levitating off the ground. It's really weird. And like when I had that happen to me like a few times, I was like, maybe these physics are kind of fucked up. Like maybe it isn't like maybe these aren't good and like I'm not getting in my head and these truly are some fucked up physics.
Well, there was those few times where we were going so fast that like our car was going under the level.
Yeah,
like it would clip under it, but then the game would like shoot us back up real quick.
Yeah, it has like weird physics. Like another thing, and I think it's kind of tied to that slingshotting off the ground that we had was like, it almost feels like the cars are so bouncy. Like even when you're going around a corner, I feel like I have hydraulics on my car. Like the cars just bounce so much. And like, it's supposed to be a racing game. Like your cars are supposed to be very grounded. You should be taking if you take a corner too fast, you shouldn't start bouncing. You should just fly through the corner and end up in the grass. But that's not what would happen with Shift. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen with Shift 2. We didn't play too much, we didn't legitimately play too much. We did a lot of quitting when we did our King of the Hill trophy, so we didn't actually race too much. So I am intrigued to see what the physics actually do in Shift 2, and if I'm assuming they're going to improve on them, but only time will tell. But I will say the run physics were definitely, I think they were better than Shift. They're definitely more arcadey, but I'm still not a big fan.
The last thing I want to say about the run, and we can go to
we can
next
run
topic after this. We can run to our next topic after this. Is the rubber banding fucking sucks, dude.
Oh my god, I was complaining about that on stream. The rubber banding is some of the worst that I've experienced in a game.
There was one time I was doing one of the challenge series, and I was right about to get to the end with the perfect time and everything, and I don't know where this man just like teleports behind me and then just zooms right past me.
Yeah, the rubber banding has to be some of the worst, if not the worst, that I've experienced in a game. In case you probably know what rubber banding is, but essentially what rubber banding is like if Waves is racing the AI and Waves is beating the AI by like 10 seconds, the AI will literally drive 500 miles per hour to catch up to Waves, to then zoom past him. And I actually had it. Did you beat the final mission on extreme difficulty?
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced it, but there was parts of that where I would be driving like as fast as I could drive, 200 miles per hour, 220 miles per hour. This motherfucker would fly past, like, we're not talking like he would inch past me and he's going like a mile per hour fast. This motherfucker would be going like 300 miles per hour and just zoom past me like I wasn't driving 220. Like, it blew my mind. And then I would get to the end of the race. You know how you I don't know if you remember, but the very end of the race, it doesn't matter. So there's a few weird things with the last race. The first being, it doesn't matter if you're beating the AI by 10 seconds or he's beating you by 10 seconds. In the middle of the race, there's a cutscene that happens and you get thrown under into the train tracks.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter what the time difference is, you always hit that cutscene, which makes sense. If they're gonna do like a cutscene like that, you kind of have to do it no matter what. This also happens at the end of the race. It doesn't matter if you're winning by a mile or you're losing by a mile. As long as you get to a part of the race and you're not too far behind, there will be a cutscene that plays where you are drifting around the corner at the same time that the other guy is drifting around the corner, and you get into a straightaway, and you basically have to drive straight and win the race. Well, I can't count the amount of times that I was driving straight and I would hit my nitrous, like basically time it up perfectly to where my nitrous was running out the second I was going to hit the finish line, and I still could not catch the AI. This guy was still outrunning me. I was going like 230, 240 miles per hour, and this guy was pulling away from me doing like 270 or something crazy. Like, I was just like, what? And then if you lose the race and you have a rewind, oh, you don't get to use the rewind. You got to restart the whole event. You failed. Get out of here. Head back to the beginning. It's like, where's the logic? Like, what? So
wasn't there also like these two well, I remember what they were. There was like two blocks, I remember, that you had to go right in the middle of, and if you just clipped it, it would like wreck your car immediately.
Yeah, there was
something like that.
There was, so it was in an area that had cargo containers, like a dock.
Yeah.
And there was two parts where like the cargo containers were like kind of close. One of them was like kind of close, and then the last one was like you literally had to be perfect with driving through it. And if you like even like farted on one, you would crash, and it was just stupid. But dude, the rubber banding in that game is crazy. Like if they took the rubber banding out, it would be better. You know, the other thing I say it time and time again when I play Need for Speed games and I can't wrap my brain around it. I don't know how their physics can go from like okay to like dog shit. Like, I don't remember too much because it was a while ago, but like I remember Need for Speed Hot Pursuit having pretty fun physics. I wouldn't say they were realistic, but it was a fun game to play. The drifting was fun. The cars were controllable. You didn't spin out and do all this crazy shit. Now, obviously, going from Need for Speed Undercover to Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, you're taking like 10 steps in the right direction. But then from going from Hot Pursuit to the run, it felt like you took 5 steps back because the physics in the run, I think what they were trying to do is make the cars kind of like, because you know how they give them like difficulties, like some are like, this one's easy to handle, this one the handling is extreme. Like I think if the handling is like extreme, they tried to make it like obviously like harder to handle, but there's no like incentive to using them. Like this car isn't, at least it doesn't feel this way, this car isn't faster on the straightaway but like harder in the corners, even though that's probably like the intent. You can't feel it. And the other thing that's weird about the game is when you're doing a race, you're better off like never using your nitrous, because even if you use your nitrous, because of the rubber banding, the AI just stays with you. It's like the AI is designed so stupid in that game because of the rubber banding.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm working through the challenge series. Hopefully I'll have it done by tomorrow, but only time will tell. But
last thing, Snickle, before we go.
Let me hear.
I had my trophy guy debut.
Oh,
today.
I did see that. I did see that. That was quite an interesting trophy guide to make. But
yeah, it's the first
did see
one.
that.
So, go look at that. I probably should have been in a shameless plug section, but there you go.
I want Waves and Brian to start making platinum videos like I do.
I'm gonna, you know what? This was actually a project I was gonna pitch to you and Brian when I had the footage and everything done. I was actually gonna make like a video essay type thing, and I was like, it was funny when you brought it up. For Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
After getting the platinum, because that's like the game I like kind of want to focus on right now, just because I'm having a lot of fun with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably focus on Need for Speed, but I just can't right now.
Well, it's understandable.
But I was actually gonna make like I don't know if it's video essay or whatever, but I was gonna make like a long form video of it, and I have like almost 3 hours worth of footage right now, so
that's good. I want, and I know Brian brought it up, but like, I was trying to get us like all into like streaming more, and like, I see people that make the type of like platinum videos that I make where, they kind of like show themselves getting the platinum and then run through it. But like, I feel like I don't see it enough. And like the whole thing that I like about those videos, because I make 2 types of platinum videos. I make the platinum video of me showing myself getting the platinum where I briefly talk about the game and briefly talk about the trophies. Like it's a 10-minute video, but everything's kind of, that whole video is off the dome. Like whatever my thought is at the game at the time is like what I'm saying. Which I think is good. It's like raw for the time of like completing it. It's how I feel. And then I make my how to platinum, which is more of like it way more structured because it's scripted, but it's more of like a guide on how to do it and not just like a raw thought. So even if I think the game is dog shit, like I will still walk you through how to get it. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, people make fun of it all the time. I made a 20-minute video or 15-minute video telling people exactly, or walking people through, I shouldn't say telling, but walking people through exactly the most efficient way to get the platinum. And then the last like 2 minutes of the video, I just shit on the game.
Yeah.
Which like, do I think it's a bad game? Yes, but like I'm still gonna like help people to get through the platinum. But I was just off topic. I was just thinking like, oh, you know, Brian and Wave should make those videos. Those would be cool to see and everything.
I mean, you'll probably see me make more videos pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting all my time into Judgment, and I want to make a video on it because I find it so interesting as a kind of spiritual successor to old Yakuza. And so I'm going to make a video on that. What you won't see me do is stream, because that is just not fun for me.
Waves doesn't like to stream unless he has like someone to talk to.
Because I feel... I mean, you probably don't really get this problem a lot. Like, you have sometimes, because sometimes there's just not people talking in the thing because they just have you on as background noise or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, most of the time you either have me or Brian or Katz or someone else just, like, kind of just going back and forth with you in the chat, at least, right?
Yeah.
And, like, with me, when I stream, I'll be lucky to get, like, my 1-3 streamers or whatever. I mean, viewers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't speak unless I have someone doing that the entire time or whatever. And even then, I'm just not used to just speaking into the ether like that without someone around. And I think that's just something that I'll have to kind of get used to, even with like making YouTube videos necessarily. But there's just also the live aspect to it.
Well, there's definitely like that. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we were probably gonna get into it, but like the live aspect to it, where it's just, I just feel awkward. I just feel awkward at moments when I probably shouldn't be feeling awkward. But you know how it is.
Well, yeah, it's definitely like when it comes to streaming, like I think it is definitely like a more difficult thing to do, especially when like you don't have anybody watching, which I think is like the hardest thing when it comes to streaming. And like I think it's funny because when you watch a lot of big streamers, or when you watch not a lot of big streamers, but when you watch videos of people saying like how you should grow streaming, and they're like, doesn't matter if you have 1 viewer or 1,000 viewers, like you should be the same person. And it's like, that's not how it works. Because if you have no one in the game, or if you have no one in your chat and you're just playing your game, just think about it, right? Think about it at home, right? When you're sitting in your living room or your family room or in your gaming room, or you're at your desk, wherever you play your games, when you're sitting there playing your game, right? And you're there by yourself, are you talking to yourself? Or are you just sitting there playing a game? Most people are probably just sitting there playing a game because that's like the natural thing to do. You're just sitting there. You may every once in a while be like, wow, or like, that's cool. Like you have those like basic, I'm not gonna say basic, but everybody has those like, those interactions or those reactions to stuff that's happening. Oh, holy shit, I can't believe that. But like, are you sitting there having a full-blown conversation with yourself? No. Like,
yeah, no.
It's not a normal thing to do. So like, and that's why it's like, I agree with you, Waves. It's definitely hard to like stream when there's like no one to talk to or no one's talking, because like, what do you talk about? Do you talk about the game? Do you talk about something else? Like, what do you talk about? And it definitely is easier to stream when like there's people there watching, and like talking. But like you don't just get that out of nowhere. Like,
yeah.
So I totally.
It's not like I'm gonna
totally
start streaming tomorrow and then just have like 20 people watching. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And like you can even have 20 people watching, but like no one could be talking. Like I've had that happen before, where I have like 15, 20 people watching, and there may be like one person talk. Like you might be the only person talking. And like I feel awkward like asking people, like my awkward side is like asking people or like almost like interacting with the chat at times, because like you want to be interactive and be like, oh shit, like can you believe this is happening, or like, hey chat, like what have you guys been up to tonight, or like what games are you guys playing, or stuff like that. And then no one responds and you're like, okay, I guess I am talking to this wall right behind my monitor, like. But no, I mean I totally get it, and I think that's why like streaming is hard to get into. YouTube videos are a little like different because you do like record them and in anticipation of people watching them, so there is like that side of like it's not live. But yeah, streaming is definitely like a whole different ball game. But I if you and Brian like streamed, like I would definitely stop by. I mean, I would definitely, I don't know if it would be like over the weekend, I probably wouldn't be able to, but like during the week I definitely would. And like even if you and Brian streamed and like you wanted to, I could like we could like hop in a call and talk or something.
Yeah.
Like that stuff's
we'll see.
Yeah. But that kind of, I just thought of that the other day, and like that just goes on with like, again, what I was talking about in the beginning of the podcast with like making different like content on the channel and everything at some point. But we can get into that at a later date. All right. Yeah. So moving on, have you picked up any games?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Me either. So that's a fast topic there. We gotta get this train moving, because we're at 2 hours and we are not even done the intro yet. This is the longest intro I think we've ever done. We got completely off topic, but that's fine with me. So we picked up no games. Cool. Server shutdowns. Nothing new. Same shit. Different day. We have all the Need for Speed Undercover. So sorry, let me take a step back. Operation 7 Showdown going down on August 1st. Have fun with that. MLB The Show 17 going down on August 8th. Need for Speed Undercover Shift 2, and The Run all going down on August 31st. Max Payne 3 going down on September 16th, along with microtransactions in Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PS3 going down on September 16th. Grand Theft Auto 5 going down December 16th, 2020, all 2021. PES 2020 is going down on September 30th. I don't know if anyone cares about that. And then this is a new one. But One Punch Man, A Hero Nobody Knows is new. Going down February 22nd, 2022. Apparently it has no online trophies, but it's unclear if the online functions help offline trophies. That's all I got for server shutdowns. Let me update I don't even know what the time is going to be, so...
don't update it because our times are off because we talked a little bit before.
Okay.
We started, so I'm just going to listen to it later.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, with a 2-hour intro out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. That being our topics. So starting off with our first topic, we have Shawn Layden disappointed in games directions. I don't know if you want to take this one away, Waves. I saw something about this earlier in the week, but I didn't really read too much into it, too many articles.
Well, it's essentially what we were talking about earlier, where his issue with games now is, and he's specifically talking about Sony, but not necessarily about Sony, is, let's just do this from like Sony's standpoint, and I guess is that they're consolidating too much of their time and money into big AAA budget games. Like they're just putting all their eggs in one basket, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying that this is essentially what the game industry is now, and that's going to just lead to every game being the same, which is what we were essentially talking about earlier. Yeah. And he's saying that we're getting there already, and that these publishers and everything need to go back and like you can still have your big games or whatever, but you need to go back and invest into smaller projects. Yeah. Right? So like Sony used to be big for this back then, like not Parappa. Well, yeah, Parappa the Rapper, Vib Ribbon, Puppeteer, Rain, just random ass games that probably not a lot of people played, but Sony was putting that money into that to maybe one day get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
So like, all those people from Puppeteer, they either got new talent that proved themselves that they are able to get that stuff done, or they got new tech out of it, or whatever, right? So he's saying like this is the issue with AAA games right now. Essentially, is they're getting too expensive to make. They're putting all their eggs in one basket of the big AAA games, and that kind of needs to stop, or else the industry is gonna hit another like game crash essentially.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because these are all topics that not only did we discuss today, but these are things that we've been discussing since the beginning of this podcast, and that I think, you know, the three of us before we even started the podcast, these were things and ideals that we had talked about, you know, for years now, really. Which is just super interesting to me. One of the big quotes here, which I guess kind of is like a synopsis of this article, and essentially what you're talking about here, Waves, is by Shawn Layden, saying that consolidation takes the variety out of the marketplace. And he says, that's my fear, and over time, that is going to make the industry morbid. So,
yeah, which is what we've all been saying, honestly. Like, at least us here at like Rogue Hunters, right? That's what we've been saying for like the longest time, that every game feels the same. Like, why can't we get new like cool experiences anymore?
Yeah, and it's not just to like rag on like Sony, but it's just to rag on, it rags on everyone, right? And like you can tell with Sony that like their games that they've put out are definitely they definitely all follow the same structure. You know, like we were saying with Ghost of Tsushima, even comparing Ghost of Tsushima to Horizon Zero Dawn, or the way that like Marvel's Spider-Man is laid out, or even like the new God of War, like God of War 2018, you know, they're all, for the most part, you know, structurally laid out the same way. Yeah, do you have your characters that you love? Yeah, but that's the only thing that changes, you know, between games, is your characters and your narrative, which sometimes the narrative is even somewhat the same, but it sucks because it almost doesn't lie. It almost doesn't lie to an extent, because then we get like new games like I don't know, like Neo, right? Or like I'm just looking at, you know, specifically games that were published by Sony. You know, you get games like Neo or Returnal or Destruction All Stars, where these are games that are, you know, kind of innovating in a way, but they don't get the plays that they deserve. Like, I remember when Neo 1 came out. Now, granted, people were saying Neo 1 is essentially a Souls game, which, like, they're not wrong, but Neo 1 had features in it that made it a different game. It made it its own game.
It had actual combos, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, that was, like, the interesting part of the game, but, yeah, I mean, I definitely fear, like, same fear Shawn Layden has, that we all have. Like, I fear games get too, you know, they're going to get too similar, and then there's going to be no point of playing games, because they're all going to be the same.
Yeah.
Other than for narrative purposes, which, to me, like, yes, the narrative side of a game matters. It is part of the media, but you can go and watch a movie and have that media. What matters, you know, most to me when it comes to games, and I'm sure you agree more, Waves, because it's the interaction that you're having. It's the main interaction, and that's the physical gameplay that you're experiencing.
That's what's so different about games, aside compared to other media. Like, you can only listen to music, right? You can only there's no interactive point for like movies. There is no interactive point for TV shows, music, kind of in books, but like not really, right?
Yeah.
So like the story, like, don't get me wrong, can be great. Like Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite stories in games, right? But there's nothing really there's nothing special about Ghost of Tsushima. If we like just take it down to its bare bones, mechanically speaking, there's nothing special. It's like a cross between Batman Arkham Asylum with the combat, and I hate when people compare Ghost of Tsushima to this, but the open world of like Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, you could compare it to any open world. It doesn't specifically have to be Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. But then there's nothing necessarily special about it, and their Ghost of Tsushima's story could be a movie, and I think it's literally becoming a movie, isn't it? Didn't they announce that last year?
I think something along that lines, yeah.
Same thing with The Last of Us. Like, The Last of Us 1 and 2, they have, depending on who you talk to, good stories, right? Now The Last of Us is becoming a TV show. There's nothing necessarily just gamey or whatever about The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima. Those could be movies tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And but you go take a look at like something that kind of embraces the game nature of video games or whatever. Go look at Yakuza, Yakuza 0 in particular. And the way they tell the story, not only through cutscenes, because if you just take that game to its not bare bones, but just its story, it could be a Yakuza thriller movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you take its mechanics into light, and you start seeing that the combat system is a reason why it's like that. The reason it's 3 styles is that Kiryu has not perfected his own style yet. Mm-hmm. That he has in Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that Brawler is like the more what's it called? The more like street fight, like unrefined fighting style, while Rush is trying to mimic like a more refined style. Like, you can tell that all of these little nuggets are like gonna come together in the future or whatever of the game's world, and and then that'll become what in that game is called Dragon Style, and Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other thing is like it's storytelling like through the environment, right? That's another thing with like movies. There is an environment in the movie, right? But it's not a room that you're going to see in every movie and every sequel of that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Yakuza, you see Kamurocho from the 80s up to 2020. I think that's when Yakuza Like a Dragon takes place, to 2020 or 2019, one of those two. And you see not only your character grow through the times, but the environment also. So like, in Yakuza 0, there's a big section in the middle just full of houses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Yakuza Kawami and 2, the future games after that gets turned into that's the Millennium Tower. So now all those houses are gone. One section that you'll see like in another game, like in Yakuza in Yakuza 6, you see one part of the city being like something is being built there, right? Mm-hmm. And the next game you see now that's a what's it called? Now that's a like new apartment complex, and it has new visuals compared to like the old buildings of the city, right? That's something only games can do, right?
Yep.
And a lot of these games don't do anything that can just where I can say where only games can do this, right? Like, sure, only in a game can I walk through Sakura, like Sakura leaves or whatever, but I can also go to Japan and see that. Or
Yeah.
I can, like, or someone can get a camera and give me the same effect that it would be from the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, not from the games, but from the movies. So, essentially, I agree with Shawn Layden here that if we're just talking specifically Sony, I used to love Sony a lot, especially in the PS3 era, just because they were, I don't know if it was just because they were desperate for exclusives or to have a reason for people to buy PS3s back then, but they would just greenlight anything under the sun. If they came to them, they'd be like, yeah, make it for us or whatever, so.
Well, I think that was the that was just the norm at the time. Like, I think the thought at the time was like it was about the innovation. And I don't think it was just like Sony. I think it happened on the 360. I think it happened all around. It was just a time of innovation because we're in a new console generation. We're in an HD console generation. You know, the hardware we have is more it's better. We can do more with it. So I think it created the ability to have games that had more innovation, but I don't think that that same thing is pushed through today, or the difference being that there is innovation happening, but it's such a small, the innovation is so small that like it's almost not represented properly. I just keep thinking about it because, you know, you were talking about it today and like previously, but like you said you looked up a review of Never Dead, and I own Never Dead, and like Waves and I always planned on doing it, but I never knew what the game was about. The only reason I wanted to do it was because, you know, it was part of the Rebiverse, and we had to do the Rebiverse.
Yeah.
But when Waves was talking about like it's a game where like you can essentially throw your limbs and stuff, like take your head off and throw it if you want to, I was like, what? Like, that's kind of crazy. I just, that's something that you would not see in today's landscape of gaming. And I don't know if that's because I don't know why that is. I think partially is because AAA developers are just going with whatever's safe.
I think it's what we said before. It's
yeah,
like
it's
game design is just information driven, and what's gonna sell if we just take it by the numbers. When did Never Dead come out?
2010 maybe. 2012.
2012. Wow. Okay, so then Black Ops 2 came out in 2012.
Yep.
If you go to just a person, right, and I'm like, hey, let me show you this game, right? Never Dead. You throw your body parts around or whatever, right? And then I'm like, now let me show you Call of Duty Black Ops 2. That quote unquote normal person is going to pick Black Ops 2, and they picked Black Ops 2 when Call of Duty Black Ops 2 came out, and Never Dead were out in the same year, right? So now companies have seen that, right? Companies are like, just look at how many Call of Duties now there is, right? Like,
yep. There's no.
When was the last time we had a year that didn't have Call of Duty? You know,
probably like 2008, 2007.
Yeah, probably like one of those.
15 years ago.
Just there's a reason why like gaming is becoming this, and that's because people keep buying the same things. Like,
yeah.
And that's kind of our fault too. We keep buying Assassin's Creed, even though we didn't like Odyssey and I didn't like Valhalla or whatever. But I don't know how your stance is on Valhalla now, but
I mean,
we keep buying them, right? And they're still the same games, and it's the same thing with FIFA and like Madden and everything. They're not gonna stop making these games until people stop buying them.
Yeah, till it financially doesn't make sense. It's just
Yeah.
it's a weird dynamic because, I know Shawn Layden, and I agree with him. He sits here and says that he fears that over time there's like this is going to be essentially the demise of the industry as a whole, is everything's going to be different or everything's going to be the same. But I think what ends up happening, I haven't been in the industry long enough to be able to represent this, or to back this. But like, I think what's going to happen is typically what happens even in like the stock market, where you have your peaks and you have your valleys, and at some point, there's going to be a valley of creativity where everything is the same or everything feels the same. And I think we're getting there. I definitely think we're getting there. And at some point there has to be an uprise of creativity for sales purposes, or just because, people want that to happen. But yeah, it's just weird. It's just really weird because everything, and the other thing, and I've talked about it before, the other thing is that like everything wants to be the so-and-so killer. Everything wants to be the Destiny killer. Yeah. Everything wants to be, back when the PS3 came out, everything wanted to be the Halo killer. Like that's what every game wanted to be. And then there were games that were, just being creative, like Never Dead and stuff. But and
now it's all about being the next big games as a service, being having the next big Fortnite, being the most, having the most players, having the most people subscribe to your game service,
having the most Twitch, having the biggest Twitch streamers play it, having it like that's what it all that's what everything matters. Which it's why I am enjoying going back to play the PS3. Is it stupid because I have a PS5 to go back and play the PS3 right now? Sure. But I have a huge backlog of games, and we've always talked about like the PS3 just has such a variety of games, and it's part of the reason why I'm actually like really liking and looking forward to going back and playing these PS3 games just to experience them.
I would play a bunch of old PS3 first-person shooters than I would on the PS4 ever, because the PS4, they're basically all the same, and then on the PS3 you have Time Shift where you can like pause time. You have Never Dead where you can just throw your fucking body parts everywhere. Then you have Turok where I can knife fucking dinosaurs. Yeah. But
you want to know the weird thing is that if you sit down and you logistically think about it, right, for a first person shooter, like realistically, how innovative can they be with a first person shooter? Like even and over time, like how innovative have first person shooters been? Like I think the biggest change to first person shooting has been like the detail of the gun or whatever. Like there hasn't been anything that's like super like wow. Maybe like Titanfall or even like Mirror's Edge, like when you have like parkouring, Dying Light, like stuff like that is I would say kind of innovative because we've never really been able to experience a first person aspect of parkouring in a game. But
there can be, and I'll tell you which games to look at if like that's what you want to see, right? Because while like innovation of first person shooters in the AAA space is dead.
Oh yeah,
it's either gonna be Titanfall or what's it called, or Call of Duty, like boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The indie space is thriving. Like there's Ghost Runner where it's like Titanfall, but you only have a sword. Mm-hmm. And you have a bunch of these strange abilities, right? And then there's Ultra Kill, which is like this weird mix of an old boomer shooter and Devil May Cry.
Yep.
And there's there's a gun in that game where you can throw your coin up in the air and then shoot it, and then that'll go straight to the enemy's hit point. But if you switch over to your rail cannon and then shoot it with your rail cannon instead, it does the same thing. There are games out there that are innovative mechanically and everything. Even in the first person shooter space, it's just that they're all small indie games that nobody's gonna hear about, and unless you're like really looking for it, like I do, and I named like the bigger ones, which is Ultra Kill, and then there's what's that game called? Dusk. There's a bunch. There's like a bunch out there. Just look up New Blood Interactive and you'll find a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what it comes down to is like the AAA space taking risks for these ideas and everything.
Which is where it needs to happen, right? Because that's where you're gonna get most of your bigger, not your bigger, but that's where most of the people who know what they're doing are.
Yeah, and I think I think part of the misconception is that when people say they want innovation, they want a whole new experience, when that's not necessarily what innovation should be about. Maybe you change up one aspect of it, you know? And that's the point that you innovate on. And like, you don't have to go balls to the wall. Everything needs to be new. There just has to be things tweaked, and that can be your innovation.
You don't have to, like, you know, make a new, like, way to render voxels or whatever in your game. You just make it different. I feel like that's all people are just asking now.
Yeah.
Everything is either Fortnite or Call of Duty or The Witcher 3 Lite or then some other big or indie studio makes some like big breakthrough in their thing, so, and then Ubisoft makes their version of it.
Yeah.
Or what's it called? Like roguelikes became big in the indie space, and now we have, what's that game? Returnal.
Yeah.
We have Returnal now for that and stuff like that. Like,
it just and like, again, like, these companies are just piggybacking on whatever the ideas are at the time. It's almost like they want the indie games to take the risk, and then they reap the benefits. I mean, it's like, if you take a look at starting with Black Ops 4, you know, Call of Duty was then doing Battle Royale.
Blackout, yeah.
But like, if you look at it, like, yeah, it got, you know, Battle Royale kind of got big because of Fortnite, but Battle Royale has been a thing for, I mean, probably 10 years now. It's been a thing that's been around the block, and it was just popularized by Fortnite, and then Activision was kind of like, well, they're all doing it, so now it's our turn.
Just that, I guess, what's it called? PUBG created the formula of what makes a quote-unquote good battle royale, right?
Yeah, there was a few games that, like, they innovated off of each other, which you need the competition. Competition's always good.
Yeah. I just feel like the things that, like, not even game studios, game execs, I feel, don't understand is that, like, these games as a service, these people are going to just stick to one game. So, like, if you already have, it's like with Destiny, when everybody was making, like, their own Destiny clone, people who already are looking for that are gonna stay on Destiny.
Yeah, and the problem with trying to copy it is that if your game doesn't exceed at what Destiny does, then your shelf life is over. Like, your shelf life is like 2 weeks. And maybe that's what you need to make the money, but I mean, I don't think that they're looking for like a more long-term thing. I know a big game that's out, it's in beta form right now. It's coming out, I think, at the end of August, which people are hoping or not people are hoping, but, you know, it may be the next big MMO that people are going to play on Twitch, is New Worlds.
Oh, that game.
Which, like, it's getting a lot of flack right now, and people are shitting on it, but for good reasons, because people are critiquing it. But
it's also, I think it's like killing GPUs.
It's doing something like that. But, like, I think the thing that I like about it you know, because when I started reading about it, I was like, this is really cool. Yeah, I've always been a fan of like MMOs, but like, you know, they really don't have any on, you know, on console other than like FF14 and Elder Scrolls Online. Those are like the only two MMOs that you have. And you essentially need, I mean, I know for most MMOs you have to do this, but you essentially have to dedicate your life to those games
Yeah.
to be even close to being able to do anything in them. And as being a trophy hunter, I don't have my life to dedicate to those games, so it's hard for me to get into them. I think more of like MMOs, like going back to like old school RuneScape and stuff, where it's like you can kind of play at your own pace, and there's a lot of PvE stuff to do and stuff like that, which I guess like these games do have. But when New Worlds came, when I was reading about New Worlds, I was like, this is a really cool concept. Like I really like this, and you know, people are critiquing it and everything. I mean, it sucks that it's probably never going to come to consoles, but like that's like another that's just a game. That's an example of a game. I think that game is taking what MMOs have done, and it is innovating in a way of being in a time period and in an environment that has never been explored before, which is a way of innovating. That is a way of innovating. It may not be, you know, the best way, but it is a way of innovating when you create an MMO in a time space that's never been created before, and being able to implement it properly, I think is really interesting. You know, another game that I think, another style of game that I think is just being way too overplayed now?
What?
Open world games.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's been overplayed for a while now. Ever since The Witcher 3 came out.
Open world games have been overplayed since like I wouldn't even say mid, like
the mid 2010s,
like
I'd say.
I was gonna say like mid PS4 is like when they really got to the point of like just being way too overplayed. Like every game wanted to be open world. Every open world had to be the biggest open world ever created. Like it's just gotten to the point where it's like it's just too much. And then you have games like Assassin's Creed that are then moving to this. Assassin's Creed has always been open world, but the thing that I've always loved about Assassin's Creed, because I've always loved this aspect, is not only being able to go back to that time zone and that time period, but they always put you in a densely populated city. You were always in a city. And to me, I always find that feeling of being in a city more satisfying in a game rather than just being out in some open field. Thus why I think I like Grand Theft Auto 4 better than Grand Theft Auto 5, because I like the feeling of being in like New York City and being in that environment. I think that's, to me, that's more interesting. That's completely subjective, but like that's me. So that's why I love the old AC games, because not only was I going back in time, you were going back in time and being in cities that are now, you would be in a city that was, and it was properly represented in a time of when it was like the best of the world, and now it's like not that way. So it was like you almost got to experience what it was like to be in that time zone and in that town and in that city when it was at its highlight. Compared to, playing, granted, Odyssey, you're doing that, Origins, you're doing that to an extent, but like that's what feels weird to me about like Valhalla is like, or all the three new trilogy games for AC is like there's too much open space between the cities. The cities don't feel like anything special. Like Odyssey, like Athens in Odyssey doesn't feel like anything special. When like you have to think about it, at the time when that game was made, like that, like Greece was like the place to be. Like that shit should have been jumping, but you walk through it and you're like, where are all the people at? Like, where's the life at? Like, isn't this supposed to be like the life of the world? Like, where is this? And that's why I think like Odyssey kind of rubbed me the wrong way, was because of that. But I think all three of those games have kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I think Origins, it was fun to be in the cities. I think it felt like you were in there, and Odyssey was just downhill, and then Valhalla is just like you're literally playing in mud the whole time. So like, is it really fun? So
yeah,
I don't know, but I getting off topic here, I do feel like open worlds as a whole have been completely overplayed since like, for me, maybe like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I think around that time for me too.
So
I guess to just bring this topic to an end, all I want to say is these are fighting words. the AAA space is creatively bankrupt, and the indie space is holding the game industry on their back.
From the creativity standpoint, I agree, 100%. From the financial standpoint, the AAA space should always be holding the game industry on its back, but from the creativity standpoint, they're lacking hard. They're lacking hard. All right, let's get on to our next topic here. I think this will be kind of fast. It's the Activision Blizzard update. All
there really is to say about this is more allegations are coming out. This time even some men are coming out. And there was a walkout today.
Yeah, I was going to say that I didn't hear about... I'm reading an article right now from Kotaku. There wasn't, like, other than the walkout, I didn't hear anything, but what the article says is over 1,000 Activision Blizzard employees signed a letter condemning company's response to allegations, and apparently it's now over 2,000 Activision Blizzard employees have signed it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hit on this for too long, but, like, what blows my mind is, like, it feels like the company as a whole, from an employee standpoint, is shunning this behavior, and the up top execs are the ones that are, like, have been the biggest.
Or being like, no, yeah.
Yeah, it blows my mind. It just absolutely blows my... It just goes to show that, like, this shit was happening, and clearly no one at the top cared. So...
I think the other thing that happened was... what else happened? Oh, yeah, I think IGN said they aren't covering Activision games anymore.
Good for them.
I think it was them. Let me make sure.
So there was a letter sent to managers. So this article is from Monday. There was a letter sent to the managers on Monday. Two sources confirmed a full copy of which was shared to Kotaku and has been put below. And this is what the letter says. So it says, to the leaders of Activision Blizzard, what am I reading here?
Can you send it to me?
Yeah. I'll just post the link in the, I feel like my eyes just, like, broke for a second there. Or I had a stroke, one of the two. Did you find what you were looking for?
I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it.
So it says, okay, sorry. We, the undersigned, agree that the statements from Activision Blizzard Inc. and their legal counsel regarding the DFEH lawsuit, as well as the subsequent internal statement from Francis Townsend, are abhorrent and insulting to all that we believe our company should stand for. To put it clearly and unequivocally, our values as employees are not accurately reflected in the words and actions of our leaders. We believe these statements have damaged our ongoing quest for equality inside and outside our industry, categorizing claims that have been made and distorted, in many cases false, creates a company atmosphere that disbelieves victims. It also casts doubt in our organization's ability to hold abusers accountable for their actions and foster a safe environment for victims to come forward in the future. These statements make it clear that our leadership is not putting our values first. Immediate corrections are needed from the highest level of our organization. Our company executives have claimed that actions will be taken to protect us, but in the face of legal action and the troubling official response that followed, we no longer trust that our leaders will place employee safety above their own interests. To claim this as a truly meritless and irresponsible lawsuit, while seeing so many current and former employees speak out about their own experiences regarding harassment and abuse, is simply unacceptable. We call for our official statement that that recognize the seriousness of these allegations and demonstrates compassion for victims of harassment and assault. We call on Frances Townsend to stand by her word, step down as an executive sponsor of the ABK Employee Women's Network. That's a mouthful. As a result of the damaging nature of her statement, we call on the executive leadership team to work with us on new, meaningful efforts that ensure employees as well as our community, we have a safe place to speak out and come forward. We stand with all of our friends, teammates, and colleagues, as well as the members of our dedicated community who have experienced mistreatment or harassment of any kind. We will not be silenced, we will not stand aside, and we will not give up until the company we love is a workplace we can all feel proud to be a part of again. We will be the change.
Yeah. So I found the article, actually. So I thought it was IGN, but it's not. It's The Gamer, Game Explain, and Prima Games have put a hard pause, which is they aren't covering any more Activision Blizzard games, along with Ubisoft games.
Oh, they're not doing Ubisoft games either.
Yeah, because of the sexual allegation and stuff that happened last year.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So I feel like something has to come out of this just because of how many, not even just people who work there, but outside of that, just because of that amount of like buzz this is getting.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah. I reading through the article, like one thing that I find interesting, which like I've always, said, is that that Activision Blizzard have claimed, the executives have claimed that actions will be taken to protect us, but in the face of legal action. And the troubling official response is that they no longer trust their leaders will place the employee safety above their own interests. So basically what they're saying is when it comes to like legal actions, like they're going to throw, like the executives are going to throw anyone under the employees feel that the executives will throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
For their own interests, and that they feel like they can't trust these executives with making the right decisions morally and ethically. So
I hope that what happens is Bobby Kotick gets kicked out and they put someone better, because Bobby Kotick is a piece of shit. And I hope the other people like this Frances Townsend and some other people at the top, I hope they get kicked out also, because it's very obvious that they don't seem to care at all in any way.
It just blows my mind, not just with this situation, but just in general, when you have all these execs and stuff of companies that literally do nothing. Like, the whole point of you being an executive and a high up person is so that you can have a word, and you can have a voice to help employees, because like without it, it's a give take. Like without Activision Blizzard's employees and developers, they can't develop games, therefore they can't make money, which means these people up top don't get paid, which I think they get paid way too much, to start off with. But like they need their developers and their workers to make them games, to make them money, but then these people don't even represent them properly, nor do they look out for the best for them. Like I feel like if I was in that position, I would be treating like everybody that worked under me like almost like they were like a child to me, like a son or a daughter. Mm-hmm. Like I would be in there like every day, like and granted maybe they have like hundreds of people to do this with, but like if your job is to manage these people and make sure that these people feel like they're in the right spot, and you do other things, clearly, like go to meetings or like whatever else you do, you're not in the trenches of making the games, but you're doing very high level things. I think you should have the ability to be checking up on these people and making them feel like they're valued and that they can trust you. And the fact that these people don't do that is awful. Like I've had bosses like that in the past where I feel like I couldn't even say anything to them because I felt like if I did, Like, it was going to hurt me more than help me. So instead of me saying anything, I just don't say anything, bottle it up, and then eventually move on. Which, like, I feel like you should never feel like that with somebody that is supposed to be, like, your superior.
Well, I mean, especially in just the game industry, because, like, a lot of people have looked up to Blizzard, and, like, I know it's a whole thing about don't meet your heroes or whatever, but I know, like, a bunch of people that I went to school with would kill to work on Blizzard because they loved Warcraft, they loved Diablo, they loved all these games growing up, right? And then you get there and it's just like
a shit show.
Fucking awful place to work at.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sucks. Like, that's what it comes down to. It sucks. And you know what this makes me think? This makes me think, tied into the previous topic that we talked about of the game industry getting stale with creativity. It almost makes me feel like, you know, that the reason that it's getting stale is because all of the decisions being made are by the people up top, and there's no communication from the people down low. I mean, imagine this. Activision Blizzard has, I don't know how many employees they have, but 2,000 employees. They have at least 2,000 employees because that's how many people have signed this letter condemning this stuff. Even if you take that number as a whole, you're going to tell me out of those 2,000 employees that you have, that there's not a handful of them that have some sort of thoughts or creativity that they would love to share to innovate and progress games. It's almost like they're silenced to the point of, like, sit there and do your fucking work and don't say a word.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think back to like the PS3 with Activision in particular. You got like Jurassic the Hunted.
They were wild and out back in the day.
Yeah.
Not even PS3, PS2 and stuff. Like, they were wild and out.
PS2, yeah.
Dude, the amount of crazy games I remember seeing with that retro-ass Activision logo. Like, I didn't think about it until I went back and played, like, an early PS3 game that had it. I think Jurassic the Hunted had it, right? And that one that, like, spins around like a tornado. When I saw that, I was like, wait, shit, this, like, it almost made me, like, I had, like, a revelation. I was like, holy shit, this is Activision. Like, I've played so many of their games in the past that, like, I didn't even like, every time I thought of Activision, I was just like, they make Call of Duty. That's all they make. But then I played that game and I was like, holy shit, like, they actually made, like, some bangers back in the day that I played. Yeah. I don't know how to solve the creativity part, but I definitely feel like this sort of treatment that these employees are getting I feel like it is part of there being no creativity. Because imagine, I don't know how these companies are structured, right? But imagine they have to be structured in the way of, like, you work as a team. That, like, that's how it has to be. That's how everything works. Like, imagine you're working with, like, 50 other guys on a project. And you go in, like, let's say every 2 weeks you have, like, a checkup meeting to make sure, like, everything's going okay. Just a quick, like, 20-30 minute meeting, right? And imagine, like, you go into that meeting and you're like, you have one guy that speaks out and he's like, you know, I know we're doing this right now, but, like, what if we try this out or something? But, like, it always gets shut down. Like, then you're never going to have the creativity. Like, I've had that happen, you know, personally, where, like, I've gone to meetings, like, for my work, and, you know, previously, like, we would have a meeting once a week. We would always have a 30-minute meeting once a week. People would talk about what they were working on for the week, if there was anything you wanted to talk about. So, like, that was your time to kind of voice your opinion on stuff. And, like, my job, I do design things. So, like, I have the ability to have that creativity to say, like, hey, look, I noticed this when I went out. Maybe we can modify it or change it to be this way. And at my old job where I was before, I felt like I was never able to, I feel like I could always voice that, but then there would always be, like, it would always get shut down or shot down. And then it gets to a point where you're just like, well, I don't want to say anything anymore. Like, I'm just going to do my work and move on. Like, I'm wondering if something like that is happening within the game industry as a whole.
It has to be. I feel like there's definitely has to be. I mean, it's a creative. Sorry.
You're good.
It's a creative workplace, obviously. So I doubt, especially like with Naughty Dog now, I doubt there isn't people there who wish they could go back to like Jack and Daxter, right? Or even over there at Sucker Punch with Sly.
Mm-hmm.
And you can very obviously see at Insomniac that they love going back to Ratchet and Clank. But I'm sure there's people there who would love to go back to Resistance and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But then Sony's telling them, "Oh, your current games are making us more money, and we want you to make more like that instead." And I think we'll probably see even more with that thing that I showed you the other day, where Sony's I forget what that studio's name is, Haven Studio.
The games as a service.
Yeah, the games as a service, where if Sony gets a shit ton of money from that, just say goodbye to your single player story games from Sony. I know you told me, oh, it's just one game, but nah. That's how it always happened. That's how it started with Call of Duty, right?
Yeah. It always starts.
That's how it started with Assassin's Creed. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that you have companies like this that have thousands of people working there, and you have the most like it's not that you don't have the ability to create. Like, there's obviously suppressions from all types of areas, like shareholders and managers and things like that, but like you can't tell me that they don't have the creative ability from the bottom when you have thousands of people working there. Like, yeah, you definitely have people that just show up to work to do their work. You're always going to have people that do that, but you can't tell me that there's not people down low that are working, that are trying to grind to make a name for themselves so that, they can be known as some, creative genius or something eventually. Like, it's ridiculous to think that isn't something that is happening, but like, it's sad because it probably is just being suppressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely keep updated as we go along to see what happens. I don't foresee anything else really happening. I think the only other thing that we can see happen in this space is Activision Blizzard taking measures into their own hands regarding people stepping down and or being fired. I think the better way of going about it for the people to save people's image is to for them to step down, but at the same time, they didn't care about other people's images when they were making these decisions, so maybe they should just be fired.
Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, we can move on. I think that's going to be the only thing we see progressing forward is going to be, if there is anything that happens, it's going to be people stepping down or being fired, whether it's executives and high ups or the everyday average Joe that's down just getting into it, like these 2,000 employees that signed this paper. I mean, could you imagine that? I don't want to harp on this too. Could you imagine if those 2,000 people that signed that letter, if Activision Blizzard doesn't make a change and they all leave? I mean, crazy. Granted, like, there will probably be a plethora of people that will roll in and take those positions, but like, will they really?
Not
because
nearly
of
with the years of like
experience.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure if I had if I had been offered a place there, right, I would probably take it. I won't lie, because I need a job and I want a job in the game industry, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? It's gonna be a bunch of people with no experience.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bunch of people starting out, which like isn't bad because those people can finally like get the experience. But at the same time, they're losing their experience. But you're also saying, like, there's also a possibility of like people saying, like, I have, like, even if they have a little bit of experience, saying like, I don't want to work there, like, I wouldn't work there.
Yeah, there's that possibility also, and those people, not to rag on like new people, because I'm one of them, but they won't have necessarily the skill set that the people who just left had, right? Like,
Yeah.
they aren't gonna make games as good as those people.
Yeah.
Just to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see as it evolves, or as it evolves, but I don't foresee anything crazy happening other than if you count people stepping down being crazy, which to me, I don't find that to be crazy because that's probably what should happen.
And that conversation just leads to, like, should the game industry, like, unionize or whatever, and that's just gonna get to a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's just a whole nother scary aspect that I don't know we want to talk about. I mean, I will say the good thing is if these people do step down or they are fired, it at least opens doors up for other people to get the ability to be in a managerial or executive role, which I think is always great because that stuff doesn't come up too often.
And hopefully they're not like pieces of shit or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that they wouldn't be, considering that you would see what's happening here. And I hope that anybody that is accused guilty of this, or is guilty and maybe not even accused, like that does happen, and if they do step down or they are fired, I mean, I don't really wish bad things upon people, but like, I can't say that you shouldn't have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. All right, let's move on to this next topic. I don't want to. This is something that I added in Waves just because I remember seeing it a day or two ago, maybe.
Yeah, I just read it.
Actually, no. This came. Oh yeah, this came out like today, I guess technically. This morning, but basically what it's about. I don't want to go too far into this, but there are a few states that, including California, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, which are not allowing Alienware computers to be shipped to them. So basically these states are banning PC gaming, specifically Alienware for some reason. I don't know why. I guess because they're tied to PC gaming. But essentially what's happening...
It's apparently over energy consumption laws.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the reason it's happening is because of energy consumption laws, and it's specifically... California has the worst of it when it comes to anything energy related, because apparently they try to save the planet all the time, yet it's probably like the worst place to live. But there are a lot of issues right now going on out west with power consumption, and there's surprise, there's always issues with fires and stuff out there. So I know, like, in the past few months there was issues with people who lived in like Washington State having issues with the ability to even use their air conditioning in their house because it used too much power. So
well, like power lines were melting or whatever too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of out of hand. So essentially these states are banning, well, we'll leave an article down below, but essentially these states are banning the delivery of PC game or gaming PCs. I don't really know. I didn't read too much into this, but I don't think that they're necessarily banning, like, the FBI isn't going to show up to your house and rip your gaming PC out of your wall if you have one. But
so you're just like banning this because it's built like in China or whatever, and then the energy, like the fumes or whatever from the ship that brings them over here is too much or something? Is that like what I'm kind of understanding here, or is it because of the amount of energy that it takes to power that PC?
So it goes on to say, I'm trying to find the exact. There's consumption in 2016. If you really know. So part of it is the shipping, because it says the impact of the shipping stoppage is amplified by an ongoing shortage of high-end GPUs that have left many people unable to build their own gaming PCs. But apparently it's like from a PC. There was a according to this, there's a new law that Dell is referencing because Dell is the mother company of Alienware.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's not a new law, but rather a new series of computer and monitor power consumption restrictions, first approved by California in 2016. There's like a PDF breakdown. But there's another article. They just take you to article after article, man.
Yeah, this is a very not good article.
Yeah, it goes. It's a good article because it kind of it points you to all the sources that you need. So this article says, which is from this power consumption log, Dell is canceling Alienware gaming PC shipments to several U.S. states, and it says for the time being, Dell is no longer shipping certain Alienware Aura R12s and R10 gaming PC configurations to half a dozen U.S. states because those product lines potentially fall out of bounds of new adopted energy-efficient requirements. So it says, when attempting to configure one of those systems, a warning message appears in bold red lettering to alert buyers that their order will not be honored if the destination resides in one of the affected states. This was first spotted by somebody. And then it gives the states. So it says, the Aura R12 and R10 were built around the latest generation processor from Intel and AMD, the former featuring the 11th core Rocket Lake CPUs, and the later wielding the Ryzen 5000 series chips. Both Dell and buyers who reside in the affected states, the majority of R12s and Aura R12s and R10 configurations consume more power than local regulations allow. There are exceptions, though. So basically, the PCs themselves are consuming more power than regulated.
So dumb.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. So it says, in 2016, California became the first state to approve an energy-efficient standard for PCs and monitors. At the time, it was anticipated that the new standards would save 2.3 billion kilowatt hours of electricity a year and significantly reduce carbon pollution arising from fossil fuel-fired power plants. Sorry. And then it goes on to say that more regulations are coming on too. In December 9th of 2021, a Tier 2 requirement will expand to computers with high-speed networking capability, multi-screen notebooks, notebooks with cylindrical behavior, and monitors with high refresh rates. Holy shit.
What the fuck?
The formula is used
You're going to start seeing a bunch of game developers move out of California soon, dude.
Dude, it's crazy because think about you have Silicon Valley there.
Yeah.
You literally have the hub of technology in your state, and you're like, oh, we're gonna regulate now. Oh, okay, cool.
That's why they're all leaving. What is it? IBM is now in Texas, I think.
Yeah, there's a bunch of I think everybody's trying to get out. So,
Oracle's in Texas now.
Yeah. So it says, in short, there's formulas that determine if a system passes under the regulation. They have a thing, a PDF for it, and it says, in short, various annual energy consumption metrics apply to different PCs, the least stringent being the 75 kilowatt hours of electricity per year for certain system manufacturers. After July 1st, 2021, so earlier this month, you had to have less than 75 kilowatts an hour of electricity. Going forward, there is a whole load of calculations systems builders will need to make around PCs shipping from July 1st, but with various adders like the GPU, networking cards, and other hardware that can modify the final calculations. It's quite dizzying. So basically, there's calculations you have to do to determine how much power your PC is using.
That's ridiculous,
dude. It's crazy. And when I first heard it, I was like it's funny. You see things like this, and you're like, this has to be a joke, right? This has to be crazy, right? But it's actually true. Which is kind of sad. It made me think about, what it made me think about, because I experienced this when I went out to when I went to Australia when I studied abroad. So you know how I'm gonna enlighten people here for a second. You know how you and I don't know if this is how it is for all of Australia, but this is how it was for the campus we stayed on. So you know how you just like connect to your Wi-Fi and you just, you know, call it a day, and you can do whatever you want to. You can watch 3,000 hours of YouTube videos. You can go to the hub as many times as you want to. You can do whatever you want, right? No problem at all. So when I went to Australia, when I studied abroad in Australia, when we got to the campus that we stayed on, you had to create an account when you got there. And when you created your account, we were there for a month and a half, 2 months. They gave you were only allowed to use a certain amount of gigabytes of Wi-Fi per month.
Really?
Yes. They regulated your Wi-Fi usage. We were only, and I don't know if this was because like we were studying abroad or whatever, or this was just a thing on the campus, or just a thing that happens in Australia as a whole. But like, yeah, you were only allowed to use, I think we got like 10 or 20 gigs of data per month. So we ended up getting like whatever 30, whatever it was. We were there for a month and a half, 2 months, so 20 to 40. But yeah, you were limited to the amount of data that you could use on the Wi-Fi. And I remember being like, well, I need to use Wi-Fi to do like my work, right? Like you needed Wi-Fi to submit you know, work that we were doing, and to do labs, and to do all this whatever we were doing there. You had to use Wi-Fi, but then you had to sit there and be like, do I have enough data? Do you think I'll have enough data to lay in my bed and watch YouTube videos tonight? Like
that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's like the kind of stuff that like I had to think about, and I guess it kind of helped because it made me go to sleep earlier, so I wasn't staying up watching YouTube videos and stuff. But yeah, I just think it's crazy because when I saw this stuff about the power consumption, it immediately made me think of that. Because if I was to tell anybody that, you know, obviously they'd be like, you're full of shit. But like, I feel like if you were to tell anybody like, yeah, California just banned gaming PCs because
They take too much power.
They consume too much power, you'd be like, are you fucking high? Like, what are you talking about? So
that's crazy. I feel like the only time that's kind of acceptable, I mean, is like during a time of crisis or whatever.
Yeah.
Like here, what happened with the God, I just am dying right now. What happened here with the power grid in Texas.
Yep.
And there was rolling blackouts, which I don't believe how rolling they were because I didn't have power for like 5 days. But
yeah, that's not rolling. That's like we shut this shit off till we fixed it. Rolling would be like, hey, between 4 and 8 every day you're gonna lose power.
Yeah.
And we're gonna sector it off, so at least you have power every day, but between these hours you won't. Well, I think even when the Big C happened, people were talking about, or there was discussions from companies, like communication companies. I don't know what you have down there, but like we have like Verizon, Comcast. I think those are really like the only two big ones around us that we have. Like basically like ISPs, like your internet service providers.
We have AT&T. We only have two, AT&T and Spectrum.
Okay, yeah, we have. I've dealt with Spectrum before in like North Carolina, but we have Verizon and Comcast. Those are the two that we have, and I remember there being talks like when the Big C happened of them saying like basically the same thing Australia did, like, oh, we might get to a point where we need to limit the usage that people are using on Wi-Fi because of, you know, too many people using it, and it's like, bro, people are literally working from home. Like, I can't just tell my employer one day like, hey guys, I can only work 2 days a week because that's all that my ISP will allow me to use for internet. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's just crazy, this shit that people say, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, we left an article below, and it's kind of shit, but the nice thing about it is it has a lot of articles kind of like hyperlinked to it with breakdowns and stuff. So if you want to go read through any of that and get all your details down, you know, go right ahead. And since we just surpassed the 3 hour mark, I said this was going to be a short one, and here we are. Should have kept my mouth shut.
What an episode this has been.
Dude, we had a whole 2 hour introduction. Never have I ever, and never will I ever do that again. But we got off topic for a minute.
Never say never. So.
It is what it is. We have a user submitted or a viewer question, and this is from JGM4789. And he says, what are your guys' thoughts on PES and possibly FIFA going free to play? Personally, I think it's about time sports games went this model, as most of the time it's the same game every year with maybe one or two new features, and there really being no point of releasing a $70 game every year for this title, as most of them are already half live services as they are now. So, I will state very quickly before we get into this topic, which I only want to talk about for 5 minutes because I don't think we're going to go too deep into it. I've stated since probably for years now that I believe sports games like Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, PES, even like F1 games that come out on yearly releases that tweak 1, 2, 3 things in them, whatever it be, graphics, whatever. I believe that those games should be sold as a singular disc or a singular digital version of the game, and every year you have to pay $20-$30 and you get an update or whatever it be, because the whole point of these games coming out every single year in the past, and I'm talking mainly like PS2, Xbox, the main reason for these games coming out every year was when it came out, you got the roster update. That was the whole point of it. There was no way for these companies to update the rosters without releasing a new game. Now you can get a game update and all your rosters are updated. So it doesn't really provide any incentive to buy the new game directly when it comes out. But I've kind of been preaching it for years that there should just be a singular game that's bought for whatever, $30-$40, and it's the core game, and every single year you pay like an upgrade fee for the next year, and it's just as for trophies and achievements, they can give a whole new list if they want to. They can just add a DLC on that has, 20, 30 trophies, whatever it be. However they go about that side of it doesn't really matter, but for the core game, I think it's ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous for these companies to charge $60 for these games. Now that they're going to be charging $70, since that's the new AAA price tag, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've never understood the point of buying the FIFA and all that every year. Separately for $60 every year. I feel like, especially now with how like microtransaction ridden like FIFA especially is, with the what's that thing called, the Ultimate Team?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. But I feel like this is a much better approach for them. I didn't know PES changed its name to eFootball.
I didn't know that either. I heard about the FIFA thing. I didn't know it was PES too. I kind of heard about the FIFA thing through the grapevine, and I didn't think anything of it because I was like, I don't know if it's going to happen. But
I feel like all sports games should do this in a way. Like, do one game, then just update that over the years, and then once technology has like gone farther, then release another game or whatever with like the new graphics or whatever.
Yeah,
repeat the cycle.
Yeah, I don't think it should be like I originally I was like, oh, it should be like one game per console generation. But I mean, I don't think that that's fair, because I think that there are innovations that can be made in the way of an engine.
Yeah.
Not necessarily tweaking the engine. I think they can do that throughout updates if they need to, like major year updates. They could do major tweaks to the engine, and put it out via an update or even like a whole new game, however they want to do it. But yeah, I think every like 5 years or so they could get away with releasing a new game with like a new engine or like a
Yeah.
completely overhauled engine. Because clearly there's a difference between like if you play Madden 13 compared to Madden 25, which it's going to be interesting when we get to 2025 to see what Madden does, because it's coming up pretty soon. But
That is coming up pretty soon.
yeah, it's crazy to think about. But I've always agreed with this method because these companies make bank off of microtransactions from the Ultimate Teams, whatever game you're playing, Ultimate Team, My Team, Diamond Dynasty, whatever game you're playing, they all have these kind of collect a card modes, and I think a company could easily make its money back by every year when they put their update out, or throughout the months, just releasing new packs or doing limited time packs or doing stuff like that. Like, do I like that idea? No, because I think it's scummy, but it would be a way for them to make their money, if that's what they're worried about. And then you wouldn't have to spend as much time in actual development of the game, and you could spend time in creating a new engine or working on other games. There's so many other things that they could do. And I think with the yearly releases, it would make sense. The only thing I could see being kind of hairy with this is if you were to the way you would incorporate like the single player, because I know a lot of these games have like I don't know what the career modes, I guess you could call them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the show, and in the show it's called, what's the name of it in the show? Road to the Show. It's called Road to the Show. And the cool thing about the show is, if I'm playing MLB, for instance, I played MLB 18 the show, right? When I go to play MLB 19 the show, there's an option for me to just bring my character from 18 to 19. You don't have to. You can start over if you want to, but you don't have to. And I think that that's a cool feature. I don't know how they would implement that in an update. I don't know if like the update would consist of just updating, or having like a single player edition and then having whatever else editions you do. Like, I think maybe talking about innovation here, maybe that would be a feature that you could have. Maybe when the next yearly update of the game comes out, I'm air quoting here, when the next yearly update of the game comes out, you can spend $10 to get the multiplayer upgrade, or you can spend $20 and get the single player upgrade, or you can get a bundle for $25 that has both of them. Like, I think they could like sector it out, because some people buy these games to not even play the multiplayer or not even play the single player. So why like force someone to buy a feature that they're not going to play?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they'll ever do. I mean, they're clearly talk about FIFA doing it, but like, I don't know if it's gonna. I think if FIFA does it and it's successful, we'll see it kind of push through everything else, especially like EA related. If it works in FIFA, we'll see it in Madden, and then if we see it, and then we'll see it in like NHL, and then if EA ever does like NBA Live again, we'll see it in NBA Live. I can't see 2K doing it, if you want me to be completely honest, like the basketball games. And I don't know I don't know what the show will do, because I think the show took a big step this year with going multi-platform. So I can't see them taking a big step to go multi-platform one year and then the next year saying, okay, not only are we multi-platform now, like, we're just releasing MLB the show and we will update it throughout the years. Like, I don't know if I can see that big of a jump between.
I think Sony's probably looking at the situation though, and probably thinking about it. If they're probably going to wait and see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but
if
it
true.
Does work out for them, I don't. Especially with the whole news with the new games of the service stuff, I couldn't see them not doing it.
Yeah, I just think for companies like EA and 2K, Take-Two Interactive, and Sony, the sports games for them are almost a cash cow, because there's not too much that's changed throughout each game, even though they boast about it every year. There really isn't that much changed. But when you compare a game that was released 5 years ago to a game today, there is a big difference.
Yeah.
So they do small tweaks from year to year, and you almost don't even notice it. It's almost like, you know what it's almost like? It's almost like losing weight, right? Like if you don't take a picture of yourself when you start losing weight, you don't realize it as you go through. Like you just feel the same. You're like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. I'm feeling good. Like, but if you take a picture, a before and after picture, you're like, God damn, like I'm doing a thing.
Yeah.
That's almost like what it feels like with these sports games. Like as you're playing them, you're like, oh, I'm playing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing every year. Like, but if you were to like play one from now and one from 10 years ago, you're going to see like a completely different game.
The only thing I've heard, did you hear about this? Where apparently like EA is making you pay like $90 for ray tracing on like the next gen versions of the game.
I did hear that. I mean, I don't know how true that's going to be, but they would be stupid if they did that because, well, I guess they wouldn't be stupid. You'd be stupid if you bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We talk about innovation in the industry. We obviously want to see innovation, and I think this is one way of seeing innovation in the sports sector of the industry, because we've already seen innovation with the sports games with the ability to update rosters at the tip of your fingers, right? Like these sports games are able to not even put game updates out. Like they're updating, you know, stats as the seasons are progressing. Like every day statistics of players are changing. So now that there's the ability to do that,
and
maybe
I feel
we need
like
to change the way that the games are implemented to not be a yearly release, but a yearly update.
I feel like there's ways to make like games as a service interesting also. Like we talked about it not last week. Was it last week when we talked about the Assassin's Creed stuff?
Hold on.
I'll say it was like 2 weeks ago.
It was either last week or the week before that.
So like especially like that week, and we talked about the Assassin's Creed stuff, like
that was 3 weeks ago.
I can see, I know everybody looks at games as a service as the boogeyman, and I even see it sometimes as that, but I can see like it being like a pretty cool way of game design and just storytelling in games, right? Like we talked about for Assassin's Creed, if they essentially redid like the Ezio trilogy, but you see your character grow over the years, essentially, like that would be super cool. And then like you see more parts of the map open up as the years go on, and you see like infrastructure like change as the years go on and stuff. Like that would be super cool. It would probably not be the same game anymore as like when it came out or whatever, but just from a pure like gameplay and game mechanic and story outlook, that would be a super cool way of doing a games as a service as like a single player game, at least.
Yeah, because there's not many. When you think about a games as a service, you're not necessarily thinking of a single player game. A lot of people think of games as a service as like, you know, providing some sort of multiplayer game, because typically multiplayer games need it to keep people's interest. Because if you play Call of Duty for 100 hours, you know, you want something a little different after you play for that 100 hours. Thus why like you and I really liked D1, you know? And like why, yeah. I don't know how much time you put in, but like I was able to put in like 700 hours into the game. If it was any other game, I would have troubles putting 100 to 150 hours in, depending how much I like it. Like Assassin's Creed is, you know, those games take over 100 hours to platinum, and it's a struggle for me to do it sometimes because it can definitely be a little tiring, but I get it done. But you know, putting 700 hours into D1 was a piece of cake. Because they kept updating it and kept putting new things in. I mean, I could definitely see, I agree with you with the games as a service with Assassin's Creed. I can definitely see that being a cool way of progressing a story, especially for like a single player game. And I would love to see it. I would honestly love to see it. And I think it would be easier for the developers too, because I find it hard to believe, and I find it hard for them, and I get they get 2 years in between, but they have to create not only an environment, they have to create a story, they have to create characters from nothing to something. And yeah. I feel like that's a lot. And if you're able to take some of that off and you're able to say, hey, look, we already have the environment, we just need to tweak it here and there, that relieves some pressure. Oh, we have a character, we just need to progress their narrative and do stuff with their narrative and maybe introduce a new character here and there. Well, as long as you're not developing a whole new main character, like, that's a little easier to do. Like, I think that there is definitely easier ways to doing it as a games as a service is definitely going to make it, I think, easier on them. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with games as a service, if done properly.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the sports game take that kind of path.
Yeah, because I can see, like, people, like the dude bros that usually buy, like, a console and stuff just for, like, sports games. I can't see them paying $70 every year. I already hear them complaining about $60. So...
Well, I have a bunch of friends that play, I would say, casually. They don't really go out of their comfort zone, and they play. The only time they play games is when they're playing with each other, but they're on Xbox. But you know, they only buy, 6 games a year, something like that. So when you're buying a game every other month, it's not really a big deal. You know, they're going to buy the new Call of Duty, they're going to buy the new Madden, they're going to buy the new MLB, but I think when it comes down to it, that's the majority of gamers.
Yeah.
Sadly. I mean, we definitely as trophy hunters are in a minority, but as gamers who enjoy a variety of games, I also feel like we're sometimes in a minority as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, we will wrap this episode up since we're looking at 3 hours and 20 minutes. I think this is the longest episode that we've ever done, which
we had some fun.
No, we definitely had good topics. We went on some rants at the beginning. We had a 2-hour intro, so yeah, good to that. Thank you guys for watching. If you've stayed this far, I can't thank you enough. If you're still here, comment I don't even know, a banana.
Whoever wanted us to react to a video while we recorded this, we couldn't find the video you wanted and we couldn't find your comment. So
it's
if you just want to, like, send that to us on Discord or something, and we'll for sure do it next week. I don't remember who it was.
It was his name is IDK Just Make It on Twitch. So... I think its name is I think on YouTube it's I don't even know. Dead Memes maybe.
Well, whoever is I don't know, Just Make It on Twitch. We could not find your comment, and we'll for sure do it next week. Just DM us on Discord or something,
or add it on. Oh, was it added on Twitter?
Check your Twitter.
We can't do it anyway because it's kind of late.
It's pretty long and late now.
Pretty late, and we had a long episode and we put some things in. No. No.
No.
No. I don't know. But yeah, just leave it Discord, Twitter, somewhere that we can, you know, easily access it. You can even comment it. It may have been commented on a video, but it got blocked because it was a link. I don't know. Leave it.
I'm thinking that's what happened because when I look at the video, it says it has 2 comments, but then when I click on the comments, it's only 1.
Yeah,
So.
I would say leave it either Discord or Twitter. Put it there. Tweet it at the Rogue Hunters Twitter. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. If you've made it this far, comment banana down below. Be sure to go tweet at Brian and ask him what he's up to. And after this longest episode ever, I need to go take a piss. So I will catch y'all later.
I gotta take a piss too.